Chapter 929. Nian Ciu was so overbearing that they could not refute. The main thing was that her words were reasonable. If it was them, with their disciple having such ability, they could indeed continue slaughtering. Only then would they be able to obtain more killing intent. After condensing it successfully, they would be able to obtain the power of the killing god. At the same time, they would be able to leave their names here. It would be very glorious. However, this situation was taken by Yi Tianyun. They were actually jealous. He had stayed up there for so long and was still so clear-headed. How could they not be jealous? It was just that they were protective and would not praise Yi Tianyun for being capable. That's right, but you can't influence others. There was still a Lord of Heaven who braced himself and retorted. Very simple, wait for him to finish cleaning up the disciples who went berserk, then you guys send people up. At that time, it will be incomparably safe. Just remember to be more careful and not continue to add more puppets to the killing god formation. Nian Ciu retorted coldly. They were all speechless. They really wanted to fight with Nian Ciu. However, they did not want to cause a ruckus here. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Each of them represented their own divine realm. Those who came here were all geniuses with decent standards. If they took advantage of others, not only would they be able to eliminate their opponents, they would also be able to obtain many benefits. Why not? Thus, none of them dared to make a move casually. If others were to reap the benefits, that would not be a good thing. They could only swallow their anger and hope that after Yi Tianyun eliminated all of them, he would send his disciples up. However, at that time, the killing intent of the killing god formation would be too strong. They would need to be more cautious. Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the second refinement of the Earth Monarch realm. Yi Tianyun could not be bothered with the gazes of others. Now, he had easily broken through to the second refinement of the Earth Monarch realm. After killing so many cultivators, he had finally broken through to the second refinement of the Earth Monarch realm. Then, he focused his gaze and continued to look at the other cultivators present. As all the normal cultivators had fled, there were less than 10 cultivators left. After killing them, the killing god formation was completely cleared. There are still a dozen left. Continue. Yi Tianyun picked up the heavenly divine spear and rushed over. He swung the spear and continued to smash these cultivators. One had to admit that these puppets that had gone berserk were much stronger than before. Some of them were already close to the first refinement of the Earth Monarch realm. He felt that this was the final madness of the god-slaying formation that wanted to tear him into pieces. Of course, this was meaningless. No matter how many came, he would kill them all. These puppets that had gone berserk, no matter how much he strengthened them, would at most be at the first refinement Earth Monarch realm. Facing his violent power, they could not resist at all and were easily smashed. Soon, with his violent strength, he easily killed these puppets that had gone berserk. It was not difficult at all. Many cultivators and heavenly monarchs in the audience were shocked. They all thought that Yi Tianyun would die if he continued to kill one or two more heavenly monarchs. Now that he had been slapped in the face time and time again, his face was almost swollen. Almost all the cultivators that had gone berserk were killed, but Yi Tianyun did not go berserk. How could they not be slapped? This guy, I asked him to be more high profile, but he is really scary. Nian Ciu did not know whether to laugh or cry. She asked Yi Tianyun to be more high profile, to be a little stronger and not to be timid. He should kill if he could and not be lenient. Who knew that so many puppets were about to be killed and he was still fine? Not only was he being high profile, he was definitely being extremely high profile. No one knew what they were thinking and only felt that this was too unbelievable. This caused the Lord of Heaven to be vigilant. All of them thought that Yi Tianyun was a genius that was going to participate in the ascending battle of the deity domain. If they allowed him to go back, their spots would definitely be greatly threatened. The killing intent in their eyes was not because they were affected by this place but because they really wanted to kill Yi Tianyun. Such a genius could not be allowed to stay in the deity domain of the same level. Nian Ciu could feel this, but there was no dissatisfaction in her eyes, nor was there any fear. Because this was a good thing. If one wanted to obtain great power, how could he be low-key? For example, this killing god imprint. If he did not do this, he would not be able to complete it. If he wanted to obtain benefits, he had to be first and attract everyone's attention. This was like getting first place and obtaining a top-grade reincarnation level weapon. No matter how low-key he was, it was hard to be low-key if he could obtain a top-grade reincarnation level weapon. How could Lee Dun-yun not know this? He only knew that he could not miss this opportunity. Finally, with the last spear strike, the puppet that had gone berserk was completely killed by him. After it fell, the god-slaying array lit up in an instant, and a terrifying baleful aura surged up from the bottom. This time, it was red energy visible to the naked eye. It surged up crazily from the bottom and rapidly swallowed Lee Dun-yun. The sudden change caused many people to be stunned. What was going on? The cultivators originally wanted to return inside but were stunned by the scene before them. Such a strong aura surged up. This was no longer an ordinary aura. It was a materialized aura. It was more ferocious than ordinary aura and could easily cause people to go berserk. I remember now. This seems to be the original killing god array. As there were too many people inside, including those puppets, it caused the aura to become thinner and thinner. As a result, even those with average mental strength could stay inside. One of the Lord of Heaven exclaimed. Everyone looked at him and was shocked. Didn't this mean that Lee Dun-yun had returned everything to its original state? It was not that the killing god array was angry. It was because it was absorbed by too many puppets, causing it to become thinner. Master, should we go in? When they saw this scene, they did not retreat. Instead, they wanted to go in and try. Anyway, there were no cultivators who had gone berserk. There was no harm in going in and trying. After all, there was so much aura here. It would definitely be faster to absorb it than before. However, the chances of going berserk would be much higher. Only those with strong mental strength can go in and try. If the situation is not right, come down immediately. When the Lord of Heaven saw this situation, he decided to let his disciple try. This way, they would have a chance of breaking through. After they received permission, they jumped into the killing god array. However, the moment they jumped in, they were immediately drowned by the aura. A furious roar came from inside. Everyone was shocked. This was obviously a sign of going berserk. They had just entered and they immediately went berserk? The original god-slaying formation was already this terrifying? Dun-yun. Nyen Ciu's heart tightened and she could not help but feel nervous. Chapter 930. The changes to the god-killing formation frightened many people. Especially those who just entered, they quickly went berserk. This was much more violent than before. If this was the initial state, how many people would be able to hold on? Don't go up. The Lord of Heaven stopped his disciples and didn't dare to let them continue. Who knew how much mental energy was needed to absorb the vengeful energy from within? They didn't know the standard, so they didn't dare to casually let their disciples in. Once they went berserk, they would never be able to be saved. Or even if they were saved, they would become fools. This is too terrifying. If only I went in earlier. Cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. They all wanted to try. Luckily, someone went in first and immediately went berserk. They didn't dare to get close. The first to eat the crab might not necessarily have a good result. Everyone saw what happened to the person who went in. He went berserk in less than a second. Shortly after, all of them looked towards the god-killing formation. They thought about how Lee Dun-yun was inside. He might have gone berserk, right? Master, what should we do now? How can we go in and cultivate? All of them looked towards their masters. Didn't they come for nothing? They sighed. If this was the original state, there was only one way to recover, which was to increase the number of puppets that went berserk. Once they absorbed most of it, they would be able to let people in again. But that would lead to a vicious cycle. Many puppets that went berserk would be hunted and killed. How could they cultivate peacefully like that? Unless they all had strong mental energy and could block the terrifying vengeful energy. I'm afraid we have no choice. We can't let all of you take the risk. Let's wait and see whether or not the vengeful energy will dissipate. The Lord of Heaven felt really helpless. There was an effect, but they couldn't enter. If they cultivated outside, there was basically no effect. They might as well go back. They all had helpless expressions and could only sit here and wait. But the other Lord of Heaven looked at Nian Xiu with gloating eyes. This time, I'm afraid your disciple has been swallowed up, right? With such a terrifying baleful aura, even an Earth monarch would easily suffer from chi deviation if he were to stay in there. The Lord of Heaven, who had killed his disciple, started to mock Nian Xiu. What a pity! Looks like his talent is not bad. Killing so many puppets that went berserk already consumed a lot of his energy. Now he's like an arrow at the end of its flight. He'll be instantly devoured. Even if it's swallowed, what does it have to do with you? Nian Xiu retorted coldly, thinking that the other party was simply worrying for nothing. So what if he died? It had nothing to do with him anyway. The Lord of Heaven was exasperated. He raised his fist and shouted angrily at her, "Tell me if you dare. Which god realm are you from?" Nian Xiu looked at him as if she was looking at an idiot. I don't have the ability. If you have the ability, tell me which god realm you are from. Also, swear that I'm not lying. After the Lord of Heaven was asked, he was immediately speechless. He indeed didn't dare to say which god realm he was from. This was a confidential matter. He definitely couldn't casually say it out. I just want to say that if your disciple wasn't so arrogant, he probably wouldn't have fallen to such a state. The Lord of Heaven waved his hand. He couldn't be bothered to say more to Nian Xiu. He just wanted to attack her. Who knew that he would be attacked instead? Do you think that my disciple will definitely suffer from chi deviation? Nian Xiu mocked. She didn't know about Yi Tianyun's situation. She could only assume that Yi Tianyun was fine. Otherwise, their hope would be shattered. It was hard to obtain such an astonishing genius. If he died just like that, it would definitely be a huge loss. I dare say that your disciple definitely suffered from chi deviation. The unknown Lord of Heaven said with certainty. Then I dare say that my disciple is fine. Nian Xiu naturally believes that Yi Tianyun is fine. Then do you want to make a bet? The Lord of Heaven squinted his eyes and threw another trap. Frequently making a bet is simply a common occurrence. From time to time you have to bet on something. Only then will there be something interesting. For example, martial arts competition. They would often place a bet. They can't just watch from here. Nian Xiu naturally knows that the other party is setting up a trap. She firmly believes that Yi Tianyun definitely won't come out. If she doesn't bet, it means that she also believes that Yi Tianyun won't come out. Making such a determination in front of so many people is indeed a bit embarrassing. This is a very low-level trap. But many people fall for it. The main reason is that they can't bring themselves to do it. Nian Xiu is so fiery. She naturally won't admit defeat. Instead, she said coldly, "Then say it. What do you want to bet?" A medial grade reincarnation grade treasure. How about it? This Lord of Heaven wants to bet a medial grade reincarnation grade treasure. This is definitely an exorbitant demand. A medial grade reincarnation grade treasure might be difficult to obtain for Earth venerates or star venerates. However, to the Lord of Heaven, it is only considered ordinary. No problem. Nian Xiu said indifferently, "Let's bet a medial grade reincarnation grade treasure. I will not go back on my word." The other party's eyes lit up and he immediately smiled. He feels that he will definitely win this bet. With such a terrifying baleful aura, it would be strange if he didn't die. At the same time, Yi Tianyun, who is in the god-killing formation, is naturally fine. He sits in meditation and frantically absorbs the surrounding baleful aura. Along the way, he even killed a berserk chi deviation cultivator who sneak attacked him. Yi Tianyun knows that the berserk chi deviation cultivator must have just joined. However, the berserk chi deviation cultivator just joined. So much baleful aura suddenly appeared. If I didn't store it, I would have really entered a berserk chi deviation. Yi Tianyun frowned as he looked at the surroundings. The surroundings are all red. The dense baleful aura seems like it wants to swallow him up. However, this pressure is not huge. Just like before, he can store it in his body. Following that, he slowly absorbs it. It is as easy as drinking water. At this moment, the scarlet energy in his body has already gradually condensed into a ball of blood. It looks very huge, about the size of a wash basin. Just as Xiao Chen thought that it will continue to grow, this ball of blood suddenly starts to shrink. It is compressed bit by bit, becoming smaller and smaller. Strange, it can still shrink? Lee Dan-yun ignored it and continued to absorb this baleful aura. The more he absorbs, the more it is compressed. It seems like he is preparing to condense it into a special energy body. Chapter 931. As time passed, Lee Tianyun continued to absorb, and the blood-colored energy in his body gradually condensed, forming an incomparably bright and clean sphere. This incomparably smooth sphere looked like a red gem, and inside it was compressed a dense, baleful aura. Once released, it would cause many people to go berserk. Of course, going berserk was not becoming a puppet. Only by going berserk in the god-killing formation would one be controlled as a puppet. There were people who tried to drag their companions out, and their companions were immediately uncontrolled. However, when they were rescued, they became fools. It was no different from being dead. The soul in the head was basically sucked out, and it could be said that it was almost impossible to recover. Even if they could recover, who knew how many divine pills it would take? That price was probably something that even the Lord of Heaven could not afford. Therefore, if one went berserk here, it would be equivalent to being sentenced to death. I wonder how much I have to condense before it is considered to be the end? Lee Dan-yun continued to compress the red crystal, and the baleful aura inside became stronger and stronger. The baleful aura in his inventory was thrown in one after another, but there were still no signs of success. He did not know what the true standard was, so he could only continue. At the same time, he continued to absorb the baleful aura in the surroundings. Absorbing these baleful auras did not give him any experience at all. The difference was that he could mobilize this energy and instantly release an incomparably terrifying baleful aura. It could also strengthen his killing intent and make the opponent surrender without fighting. As time passed, days passed. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Lee Tianyun stayed inside for an entire month. Outside, all of them were extremely impatient, especially the Lord of Heaven. He looked at Nian Xiaoyu and sneered, "It's already been a month and he still hasn't come out. When are you going to admit defeat? 1 month and it will be decided?" Nian Xiaoyu looked at him indifferently. He did not think that he would lose for sure. Isn't that so? Staying inside for a month is already considered a very long time. The Lord of Heaven sneered, "You can't be thinking of going back on your word, right? Face reality, this is the cruel reality. I'm not going back on my word. It's just that the time given is not enough, at least half a year. After half a year, even if he is still alive, I will choose to admit defeat. How about it?" Nian Xiaoyu said indifferently. "All right." The Lord of Heaven's eyes lit up. Half a year was like a snap of the fingers to him. Anyway, they had originally agreed to train here for 1 or 2 years. Staying here for half a year was not a problem at all. Although he had middle-grade reincarnation level treasures, he didn't have many of them. Having one more was definitely a good thing. Nian Xiaoyu turned her head and looked into the god-killing array. She could only pray that Lee Tianyun was really fine. She had a premonition that Lee Tianyun was definitely fine. Her senses were right, Lee Tianyun was not dead. The red gemstone ball in his body was compressed again, becoming the size of a pearl. It looked like it had been compressed to the limit. If it continued to be compressed, it would explode. Buzz! At this moment, the ruby sphere, which had been compressed to the extreme, released a dazzling light that instantly enveloped his body. Following that, a terrifying murderous aura pressed down heavily from above and surged into his brain. Haha, it's finally my turn to possess a body, right? This kid is really not bad. Be it his talent or ability, they are all very shocking. He is definitely a suitable candidate for possession. A loud laughter sounded in Lee Tianyun's brain. At the same time, it kept squeezing into his soul like a beast with its mouth wide open, trying to devour his soul. Get lost! Lee Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he instantly equipped the title, Soul Ferryman. Buzz! The soul that invaded his brain was immediately repelled. What appeared in front of him was a red energy soul. It was obviously a soul without a physical body. Fortunately, he had the title, Soul Ferryman, which could prevent all evil beings from invading him. Even in the divine domain, the effect was still applicable here. However, it was only limited to preventing the soul from invading his body. The surrounding murderous aura did not disperse because of the appearance of this title. However, this was enough. He easily drove away the soul that wanted to take over his body and avoided unnecessary trouble. Soul Ferryman, one of the 10 godly generals under the killing god. Cultivation level, Lord of Heaven level 1. Able to release extremely strong murderous intent and occupy the opponent's body at the same time. Martial arts, slay the heavens. As his body was in the soul state, his strength was greatly reduced. His overall strength was 230,000 astral power. One of the 10 godly generals under the killing god? His cultivation was relatively low, only at Lord of Heaven level 1. Fortunately, he was in the soul state, so his combat strength was greatly reduced. He was not at his peak. If he was at his peak, even if he was at Lord of Heaven level 1, he could easily crush Tianyun. He's not at his peak, but he has 230,000 astral power. What the hell? Tianyun was shocked by the data. Yu Yanglong and the others usually had this combat strength. Now that this godly general was in such a weak state, he could not believe that he still had such terrifying power. It seemed that the difference between people was really terrifying. How is this possible? What kind of power did you use just now? The killing soul divine general stared at Tianyun in shock. He did not think that he would fail, but he failed just like that. Just as he was about to link the murderous aura in Tianyun's body, he was ejected. It was extremely strange. He was at Lord of Heaven level 1. A mere Earth Lord could easily possess him, but he failed just like that. Get lost. Tianyun waved his Tianshan divine spear and stabbed at the killing soul divine general. He instantly unleashed his strongest power. Crazy damage mode and the ancient set stacked together. His combat strength soared to 1,370,000 astral power. Since he had broken through to second refinement Earth Lord, his base value was about 40,000 astral power. When he unleashed 35 times the power, it exploded to about 1,400,000 astral power. Boom! A terrifying power penetrated through the Tianshan divine spear and increased his strength again, reaching the power of the sky. The killing soul divine general immediately felt that he was completely locked on. A strong sense of death surged up from the bottom of his heart. He was so frightened that he immediately activated his strongest power. The murderous aura around him surged up and condensed into a huge body. He reached out and a thick shield of murderous aura solidified in front of him. Boom! The terrifying power landed on the shield and the killing soul divine general was immediately pushed back. However, he only retreated a few dozen feet before he stopped. The shield in his hand had already been vaporized. Even his body was weakened. He looked extremely pathetic. This was at least better than being completely killed. Chapter 932. The battle between Tianyun and the Soul Killer General made the people outside feel the terrifying battle energy of the Lord of Heaven. They were shocked as they looked at the situation inside the God-killing formation. What's going on? Battle energy is being released from inside? It seems to be the Lord of Heaven's energy, right? They looked at the situation inside the God-killing formation and felt very confused. How could there be Lord of Heaven's energy inside the God-killing formation? However, no one would think that it was released by Tianyun. After all, even earthly monarchs couldn't enter this place, not to mention Lord of Heaven's cultivation. Therefore, they didn't think about Tianyun and only thought about the inside of the God-killing formation. I hope nothing bad happened. Nian Xiu looked over and felt very uneasy. She had some confidence before, but now that the Lord of Heaven's energy came from inside, she was very worried. After all, this was the Lord of Heaven's energy. Both starry sky monarchs and earthly monarchs would be easily destroyed by the Lord of Heaven's energy. They didn't know that this energy was actually released by Yi Tianyun. They didn't think that Yi Tianyun could burst out such a terrifying energy. As the people outside couldn't see what was happening inside, they didn't think so. I didn't expect it to be blocked. It is indeed the Lord of Heaven's energy. Tianyun squinted at the Soul Killer General. He lost a large amount of energy in his body, but he quickly started to recover by devouring the surrounding evil aura. As long as his soul core wasn't injured, any external damage was meaningless. He could recover his body through the evil aura in the God-killing formation. This is impossible. How can you be so powerful? The Soul Killer General was confident that he would succeed because he was the Lord of Heaven's energy. How could he fail to possess a Starry Sky Monarch cultivator? The God-killing formation was set so that only Starry Sky Monarchs could enter. Therefore, they didn't think he would fail. If he had broken through here, he would at most be an Earth Monarch. How could he have the power of the Lord of Heaven? Yi Tianyun looked him up and down and smiled. You don't need to know that. You only need to know that you will soon become a real dead man. He should have reincarnated a long time ago, but he has been staying here all along, seizing someone else's body to be reborn. Looks like this God-killing formation was built for your rebirth. The others thought that it was an opportunity, but they never thought that they would be possessed. I believe that the 8 people outside were the ones who passed the tests, but ended up becoming the targets of your possession. How pitiful. When Yi Tianyun saw this guy, he immediately deduced everything. To put it bluntly, this pagoda was not an opportunity for them at all. It was there to send them to their deaths, to give away their bodies. Thinking about it, he felt that it was very sad. All of them were still sending themselves into this place. Luckily, Nian Ci couldn't hold on any longer. Otherwise, she would have been possessed by these fellows. Just now, he could feel that terrifying soul attack. If it wasn't for his soul ferryman title, he might have really been possessed. Of course, he could choose to teleport out and leave this God-killing formation. He believed that this God-killing soul general wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Without the support of the God-killing formation, the God-killing soul general definitely wouldn't be able to leave. You know too much. The God-killing soul general calmed down very quickly. His body had already returned to its previous state. His body was covered with a thick baleful aura, like a thick armor. Especially his body was still emitting waves of miserable screams. These were all the vengeful spirits that died here. They were all gathered in his body and were furiously strengthening him. Combined with the power of the God-killing formation, his combat power had already soared to 1.7 million star power. As compared to Yi Tianyun's crazy explosion, this was hundreds of thousands of star power. One couldn't help but say that this was the terrifying extent of the Lord of Heaven. Previously, it was only 200,000, but now it had soared to 1.7 million star power. This was almost 9 times. To be able to achieve such an effect, it was naturally due to the power of the God-killing formation. This was his territory. How could it be weak? This was still in a weakened state. Yi Tianyun didn't dare to imagine how terrifying the God-killing soul general would be when he stood in front of him in his peak state. He might even be able to reach 2.5 million or more star power. After all, this was their territory. The power of the enhancement would definitely be terrifying. When all aspects were combined, the effect was just that shocking. Especially their master, the God-killing soul general. God knew how big of a formation he had set up here. Combined with the baleful aura, it was as if he had been enhanced with invincible violence. The explosive increase in power was within expectations. Sometimes, it's not a good thing to be too smart. Of course, this isn't the main point. The main point is that your body is not bad. I'm very satisfied. To be able to bear so much baleful aura, I believe that the baleful aura must have modified your body. Most importantly, with so much baleful aura in your body, I'll be able to cultivate immediately after taking over your body. Not bad. The killing soul divine general walked towards Yi Tianyun step by step. Yi Tianyun had to admit that the killing soul divine general had 1.7 million star power points. Every step he took stirred up the baleful aura around him and strengthened his body at the same time. His combat power was increasing bit by bit under the influence of the baleful aura. The speed wasn't fast, but it was at least increasing. Seeing the soul-killing general walking towards him, Lee Tianyun wasn't afraid at all. He asked, "Did you build this god-killing tower so that you could be reborn? What about the others? Where are they now?" "You can say that. I can tell that you're very curious about this place, but you won't get the chance." The soul-killing general didn't explain much. There was really nothing to say to someone who was ready to die. He released his power as he walked, locking all directions. There was basically nowhere to run. "Is that so?" "I don't think so." Lee Tianyun raised his Tiantian godly spear and smiled. "I think you're the one who deserves to die. I don't know how you managed to sneak in here as a Lord of Heaven. But do you think your resistance will work in my territory?" The soul-killing general waved his hand and his body instantly grew a few times bigger. He turned into a blood-red giant with a giant axe in his hand. It was a superior-grade reincarnation-level weapon. Even though it wasn't a physical body, it could still hold the weapon tightly. It was clearly his exclusive weapon. Boom! The baleful aura shot into the sky and his combat power increased again, reaching 2 million star power. He didn't expect it to continue to increase. No wonder he was so confident. With such power, it was hard not to be confident. Chapter 933. Ding! Successfully deducted 200 million crazy point, starting upgrade crazy mode. Ding! Successfully upgraded crazy mode to level 6, most effects increased to 64 times. Obtained crazy point, proficiency, and sin point all upgraded to 10 times. Consumes 100,000 crazy point per minute. Next level requires 10 billion crazy point. As expected, the effect was directly multiplied by 2, from the original 32 times effect to 64 times. Without a doubt, his combat power had greatly increased, and at the same time, he had reached an extremely terrifying realm. 64 times effect, even if he had expected it, it still made his heart tremble. According to this calculation, the next level can soar to 128 times effect. If he really used it, it would really destroy the world. For example, if he was a second refinement Earth Lord, once he used it, it would be equivalent to 128 of his full strength attack. Of course, the current 64 times effect is quite terrifying. Ding! Successfully accepted side quest, Kill Soul Killing General, Destroy God Killing Pagoda, gained 100 billion EXP, 5 million crazy point, 5 million proficiency, 5 million sin point. He didn't expect a quest to suddenly appear at this time, but it's good to have a quest. It is completely in line with his current plan. That is to raise this place to prevent this god-killing pagoda from continuing to harm others. Lee Tianyun's change made soul-killing General vigilant, and immediately he didn't say anything. He swung his giant axe directly towards Lee Tianyun. Boom! When the high-grade reincarnation-level divine axe chopped down, the surrounding evil chi drilled into the divine axe, and in an instant, the whole world turned red. God-killing slash. The soul-killing general didn't dare to use his full strength to attack Lee Tianyun. He only used the side of the axe. He didn't dare to chop down directly. This is the body he wants to possess. If it's destroyed, he won't be able to possess it. He just needs to knock the opponent out or severely injure him. Everything was based on mental attacks. Therefore, when this terrifying power was unleashed, a murderous aura rose from the divine axe. The extreme red light condensed into a silhouette in the air and drilled towards Lee Tianyun's head. Lee Tianyun looked at this scene and smiled faintly. It's fine if you attack with all your strength, but if you hold back, then I'm sorry, it's time to end this. The soul-killing general did not take his words seriously. He felt that Lee Tianyun was bluffing. No matter how strong he was, he had already tried it. He was even weaker than him. What was there to worry about? All he had to do was suppress him bit by bit. You're just struggling at death's door. The killing soul general sneered, not slowing down in the slightest. Damage mode, activate. Boom. A terrifying power soared into the sky, as if the power within his body was about to explode. His battle prowess skyrocketed. 1 million points of star power. 2 million star power points. 2. 3 million star power points. 2. 6 million star power points. 2. 78 million star power points. 64 times the damage, and with the effect of the ancient desolate equipment set, it was a total of 67 times. At this time, the entire set of ancient desolate equipment set sounded. The Tiantian divine spear trembled, and the spearhead emitted a dazzling radiance. Critical hit. 2. 8 million star power points. 2. 9 million star power points. 3 million star power points. A critical hit effect appeared, instantly increasing his battle prowess again. The murderous aura that swept over was immediately dispersed by this domineering force. Instantly, a vacuum appeared around him. Not a single bit of murderous aura could get close to him. The soul-killing general was shocked. By the time he wanted to escape, it was too late. The domineering spear pierced through him and hit his head hard. Boom! A violent explosion was heard, and the entire space shook. The domineering force swept in all directions. The cultivators outside instinctively raised their shields to block the energy coming from inside. Some of them could not react in time. The astral lords and earthly lords were sent flying by this energy. Even the Lord of Heaven was forced to take a few steps back. This was just the fluctuation of energy. If it was a direct attack, even the Lord of Heaven would not be able to block it. It seems like someone is fighting inside? All of them were shocked. They could feel the fluctuation of energy. It should be someone fighting with each other. But they couldn't see the situation inside, so they didn't know what was going on inside. No way. How can there be people fighting inside the God-killing formation? They looked at each other. They didn't know what was going on. It's probably the energy released by the God-killing formation. At the same time, Yi Tianyun had already killed the soul-killing general without any difficulty. It's relatively easy to deal with a first-layer expert of the Lord of Heaven. Especially when the opponent is not at his peak, it's naturally very easy to deal with him. Moreover, the 64-fold power is not a joke. Ding! Successfully killed soul-killing general. Reward, 3. 2 trillion EXP, 15 million crazy point, 1 million SBS. Obtained God-killing art and God-killing formation. Obtained God-killing axe, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing ring, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing soul, rare. Reward, 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 2 million proficiency points, 2 million mastery points. God Realm Lottery Roulette, 1 chance. Yi Tianyun was very satisfied with the rewards he got from the God-killing formation. It's a pity that he didn't have the EXP card anymore. Otherwise, he would get a lot of experience. He originally wanted to use the EXP card, but after thinking about it, it's too much of a loss. The Lord of Heaven has a lot of cultivation. There's no need to rush. The experience I got is really a lot. As expected of the Lord of Heaven. If I get a little more, leveling up will be a piece of cake. Yi Tianyun was very satisfied. When he was thinking about how to destroy the formation, a blood arrow pierced through the air. The next moment, he quickly swung his celestial divine spear and collided with the blood arrow. Accompanied by a loud noise, the blood arrow was smashed away. The sharp blood arrow spun twice in the air and fell into the hand of a red energy. Then the red energy turned into the figure of a person. There is no doubt that it is another god general. There are a total of 10 god generals here. Since 8 of them left, there are naturally 2 more waiting for the opportunity to possess. Sure enough, the other one will appear after I kill one? Yi Tianyun looked at the god general holding the longbow. This god general used a bow and arrow, and it's a high-grade reincarnation level treasure. Chapter 934. I didn't expect you to kill the killer's soul heavenly general. Looks like you are quite powerful. Although I don't know how you came in, I will end your life in my hands. The killer moon heavenly general stared at Yi Tianyun with his bloodshot eyes. He pulled the bow in his hand and 3 blood arrows appeared in his hand. These blood arrows were condensed from blood essence and were very powerful. Kill me. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, So, You don't want to take over my body? Your body is perfect. Not bad. I might as well kill a body that I can't possess. The Killer Moon Heavenly General's eyes were cold. Although his physical body could not be seen, the red glow on his body was enough to prove his murderous intent. If he couldn't possess a body, he could only choose to kill. It was better than letting him go. Vide Onion escaped. Once the matter was exposed, who would dare to come in again? If no one came in, he couldn't possess a body. Getting them to kill a large number of cultivators and absorb the malevolent aura was to change their physique to match the requirements of their possession. Everything was a conspiracy. As for the auxiliary cultivation, there was definitely an effect, and it was not bad. However, those who rushed forward with the effect would die. Is that so? What do you think are your chances of winning against me compared to your companions? Itianyun squinted at him. Killer Moon Heavenly General, Lord of Heaven Level 1. Good at using bow and arrow to attack. It is powerful and can kill enemies from thousands of miles away. Has violent power and can concentrate all the power at one point to achieve the power to penetrate everything. Overall combat power, 250,000 star power. Its weakness was the extreme Yang fire. And it was Lord of Heaven Level 1. Their cultivation was not high and it was easy to deal with them. Of course, this was mainly because of his spiritual body. If he had a physical body, he might be more powerful. Swish, swish, swish. However, Itianyun didn't respond to Itianyun's words, but instead, 3 blood arrows flew toward him. The 3 blood arrows quickly released a dense murderous aura, at the same time weaving into a huge red energy net, trying to capture him. As if they had eyes of their own, the 3 blood arrows spread out in different directions at the same time to make the net even larger. Such an open attack did not seem to be the style of his opponent. Itianyun smiled indifferently. He brandished his heavenly god spear and thrust it backwards. Ding! A hard blood arrow flew out from his back. Puchi! It pierced into the ground. Sure enough, you sinister villains like to sneak up on people. It looks like he's attacking from the front, but he's actually trying to launch a sneak attack from behind. Itianyun's spiritual sense had already covered this area. Even if there was evil chi, the appraisal eye could still reveal all the details. All is fair in war. Didn't your master teach you that? A look of surprise flashed across the Killing Moon Divine General's eyes. He did not expect Itianyun to be able to withstand his sneak attack. He was surrounded by a baleful aura. Even in this state, he was still able to send the blood arrow flying. He was very surprised. He knew that it was difficult to detect the surrounding evil chi, so he chose to sneak attack, but he did not expect that he was still discovered. It's just that Itianyun didn't look panicked at all. Actually, I like this sentence very much. As soon as his voice fell, Itianyun disappeared with a smile on his face. The Killing Moon Divine General felt a chill in his heart. He didn't know what happened, but Itianyun disappeared in front of him. The next moment, he immediately felt a terrible power coming from behind him. However, it was too late. The celestial god spear had already pierced through his head and nailed his soul to the ground. Before he could even scream, the violent power had shattered his soul. Ding! Successfully killed Killing Moon Divine General. Reward, 3. 2 trillion EXP, 15 million crazy points, 1 million SBS. Obtained Killing God Secret Art, Killing God Grand Array. Reward, God Killing Bow, low-grade reincarnation level. God Killing Bracelet, low-grade reincarnation level. God Killing Soul, rare. Ding! Reward, 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 2 million proficiency points. Reward, 1 chance of God Realm Lottery Roulette. The reward didn't change much. The experience was still good, but it still couldn't let him level up. The experience required to break through from 2nd refinement to 3rd refinement was too amazing. It basically doubled, reaching 200 trillion EXP. That's 200 trillion EXP, 32,000 EXP is only a small part of it. Of course, this is all within the scope of understanding. The higher the level, the more difficult it is to level up. Even if it's a kill, it still takes a long time. Generally speaking, it's very fast. It doesn't take decades for others to break through from 1st refinement to 2nd refinement, or even hundreds of years. Because of the significant increase in lifespan, time is not a problem. The key is that it may not necessarily be able to break through, which is the real key. There is still a small part to level up. Hyun turned his head to look at the sky and said indifferently, "Are there any other divine generals? If there are, come down quickly. Otherwise, after I leave, I will expose this matter, and no one will come in." Right now, he was blatantly threatening them, trying to force them out of their hiding places. However, after he shouted, no one answered him at all. It seems that there are really only 10 divine generals. Now that the last 2 are dead, how can there be more? It seems that there are no more. Then I can destroy the great formation here with peace of mind. Lee Tianyun glanced at the place. If he wants to destroy the great formation here, he must first find the array core. He immediately activated the Heavenly Eye talent. He has to say that this talent is quite useful. Even in the face of the creator-level great formation, he can use the Heavenly Eye to find the array core. Even now, he can detect the energy lines on it. This makes him very strange. What kind of existence is the Heavenly Spirit Clan? How can they have such power? He didn't see many Heavenly Spirit Clan here, basically none, but he found them in the 3 realms. Especially since this talent is very effective, this can't help but make him feel a little puzzled. I have to find the vital crystal quickly and go back. There is no such thing in the 3 realms. Lee Tianyun shook his head. Previously, he promised the Heavenly Spirit Clan to help them find the vital crystal. However, after so many years, there is no sign of it at all. It is obvious that the vital crystal probably doesn't exist in the 3 realms. Fortunately, the vital crystal from before is still there, and it can barely last for a few years. Otherwise, it will be difficult to extend my life. Chapter 9:35. The God-killing array was huge, so he had to search for a long time before he finally found the array eye. Although they had found it, destroying it was another level of difficulty. This is worthy of being a God realm array. It's too strong, but I can only destroy it bit by bit. Hyun took out the celestial divine spear and aimed it at the array eye. A violent force constantly attacked the array eye. However, the array eye was like a boulder, making it difficult for him to destroy it. But no matter how strong the array eye was, it would be destroyed one day, especially when it was a weak point. Naturally, the effect would not be too bad. It was just that with his current strength, it would take a long time to destroy it. The difficulty of destroying it is not small. It seems that I need to increase my rank as a divine inscriber. Lee Tianyun thought for a moment and chose to increase his rank as a divine inscriber. He was only a grade 1 divine inscriber. The divine inscriptions here were grade 3, which meant that the difficulty was very high. He could destroy it, but it would take a long time. Ding! Successfully deducted 10 million proficiency points, promoted to grade 2 divine inscriber. The next level requires 100 million proficiency points. After deducting 10 million proficiency points, he was successfully promoted to grade 2 divine inscriber. Suddenly, the speed of destruction increased. Using a divine inscriber's ability to break through was much faster than using brute force. After all, using force to destroy the array was more reckless, so the gap was naturally not small. If the array could be destroyed casually, then the God-killing array would have been destroyed long ago. Therefore, after increasing the rank of a divine inscriber, the effect was greatly improved. Compared to before, the speed of destruction was 10 times faster. However, it still needed some time. This was a divine inscription that a grade 3 divine inscriber could inscribe. In the God realm, the divine inscriptions were now collectively known as divine inscriptions. This sounded the same as the name in the God realm, but the words were different. As he worked hard to destroy it, the people outside felt the energy fluctuations disappear and felt a little strange. They were more and more sure that the energy fluctuations were released by the God-killing array and not that there was really someone fighting inside. If there was someone fighting inside, it would not disappear so quickly. What they didn't know was that they had all been killed by Lee Tianyun in one move. It must have been very short, so how could they sense it? As the days passed, Many cultivators began to meditate and cultivate nearby. Even if he couldn't enter, cultivating here was still a good choice. The Lord of Heaven glanced at Nian Ciu from time to time. He felt that his chances of winning were getting bigger and bigger because of the terrifying energy fluctuations. Tianyun must have been dead by now, right? Nian Ciu's heart sank. She felt that Tianyun wouldn't be able to take it anymore. If he really died inside, Nian Ciu's heart sank. She would blame herself. After all, she was the one who brought Tianyun here, yet this kind of thing happened. He was the future main force of the heavenly mandate divine realm, but he died here. How could she not feel sad and blame herself? However, it had not been half a year. She was still not sure if Tianyun was dead, so she had to wait here. Time passed quickly. A week passed quickly. Just when everyone was feeling very bored, suddenly, there was a bang. A sound came from inside, attracting everyone's attention. Immediately, the evil chi of the god-killing array began to disappear quickly. The evil chi seemed to have lost its restraints and floated around. Some were absorbed into the bodies of cultivators, while some floated out of the god-killing tower. Everyone was shocked. This was something that had never happened before. Why did the evil chi suddenly disappear? Soon, after the evil chi disappeared, a familiar figure appeared in front of everyone. Along with it, a voice came. I finally broke it. It was too difficult. The person who spoke was, of course, Tianyun. He spent a week to break the Matrix Eye. If it was an attack on the Matrix, he really wouldn't be able to take it for so long. Even if there was a difference of 1 grade between the two, it took a week to break it. One could imagine how difficult it was. Ding. Successfully broke the 3rd grade God's Mandate rune. Obtained 5 billion experience points, 1 million proficiency points. The reward for breaking the God's Mandate rune was not small. However, it took too long. If he relied on it to level up, it would not be worth it at all. When they saw Tianyun standing inside the god-killing array, they were all shocked. They thought that there would be no bones left. But now, he was perfectly fine. Chi deviation, he's definitely chi deviation. At this time, the Lord of Heaven who placed the bet shouted. He did not think that he had lost. If Tianyun had gone mad, then he would still have one. Chi deviation? Whose chi deviation? Tianyun turned his head and looked at him. Then he looked around. There was no one around. How could there be someone who went mad? When the words came out, everyone was dumbfounded. If he could still speak, it meant that he did not go mad. You are okay? The Lord of Heaven was shocked. What could happen to me? Tianyun walked over and directly came down from the god-killing array. He did not know what was going on. Very good. We won. Hand over the bet. Nian Ciu smiled. She smiled very happily. She was happy not because she had obtained the treasure but because Tianyun was still alive. This made her tremble with fear. Who knew that nothing would happen to him? She had worried for nothing. The Lord of Heaven's face was gloomy. He could only take out a middle-grade reincarnation rank treasure and throw it over. He wore the mask but he had made an oath before. He could not go back on his word. Therefore, he could only obediently hand over the treasure. After Nian Ciu received the treasure, she immediately passed it to Tianyun and said, "Take it. This is your spoil of war." My spoil of war? Tianyun reacted quickly. He already had a rough idea of what was going on. Actually, they had made a bet here. Moreover, they had made a bet with him in the lead. He did not stand on ceremony and immediately kept the treasure into his inventory. He was not a fool to not want a treasure when he had it. There's not a bit of chi on it. This array was destroyed? At this time, some cultivators walked into the god-killing array and realized that there was not a bit of chi. They even saw that the array was destroyed. This made them extremely shocked. How could the array be destroyed? I destroyed it. What's the problem? Tianyun did not deny anything. He turned his head to look at them and said indifferently. Chapter 936. Tianyun had destroyed the god-killing formation. Such shocking news made them look at each other in disbelief. You actually destroyed the formation. How are we supposed to cultivate now? Just then, one of the cultivators came back to his senses and started scolding Yi Tianyun. After they realized what was going on, they started to curse at Yi Tianyun at the same time. Right? If you can't take it, then come out. Why did you destroy the formation? How are we supposed to cultivate now? What a scam. Don't you want to cultivate anymore? Do you like to destroy the god-killing formation for fun? All of them shouted. They felt that it was Yi Tianyun's fault that they couldn't cultivate anymore. Didn't this mean that they had wasted their time coming here? Now, Yi Tianyun became the target of everyone's criticism. They felt that he had done something wrong and caused this place to be destroyed just like that. All along, they could enter and cultivate here. Now that the formation was destroyed, they couldn't go in anymore. Seems like you guys are really stupid. This god-killing tower was built to allow them to take over your bodies. Did you really think it was left for you to cultivate? After speaking, he threw out a crystal and crushed it. The situation of the god-slaying general and the others appeared before them. Not only did it include their situation, but it also included their conversation. When they saw it, they were shocked. They didn't expect this to happen. Then, they looked at the 8 names above their heads. Their hearts turned cold. Your life and death have nothing to do with me. They offended me, so I destroyed this place. Yi Tianyun wasn't a good person. Since these people offended him, he definitely had to get rid of them. He could even get some experience points. Why not? Now that he revealed the truth, he wanted them to help him destroy the god-killing tower. No one could forcefully move the god-killing tower away, but that didn't mean it couldn't be destroyed. With so many lords of heaven here, if they destroyed it together, they could still destroy it. If he destroyed it alone, it would take too much time. Moreover, they would stop him. It would definitely be troublesome. Only then did everyone realize that they had misunderstood Yi Tianyun's actions. It turned out that they were like sheep walking into a tiger's den, obediently sending themselves to their deaths. I didn't expect that I would let you be more high profile. Now it's all good. The god-killing pagoda is about to be overturned by you. Nian Xiaoyu was equally shocked, especially when she saw the names on the list. When she thought about the content of the message that Yi Tianyun had given her, a chill ran down her spine. If she was possessed, would she be able to struggle free? However, Tianyun had managed to break free, and it seemed like he had killed them. Yi Tianyun did not record the whole process. He only recorded their conversation so that they could know the process. As for the details, no one knew. It's all right. I don't want to be so high profile. Yi Tianyun shrugged his shoulders and looked at them. Now, can you guys help me destroy this god-slaying pagoda? Their eyes were filled with anger. This anger was as if they had been ruthlessly toyed with. Destroy. We must destroy it ruthlessly. I didn't expect that you actually wanted to possess someone else's body so that you can be reborn. All of them were angered. Immediately, someone stood out to say that they wanted to destroy this god-slaying pagoda. Right, I support you too. Let's start destroying the god-slaying pagoda now and blow this place up. They did as they said and immediately started on how to destroy this god-slaying pagoda. However, just as they were preparing to destroy it, the entire god-slaying pagoda trembled. Dense, baleful aura surged up from the bottom and rapidly enveloped this region. I didn't expect that there would still be people who could destroy the god-slaying formation. This is truly a huge mistake on our part. The key is that we still came out alive. Killing Soul God General and the rest, they are really unreliable. At this moment, the god-slaying pagoda suddenly closed. The door that was originally open to the public suddenly closed and let out a loud bang. Everyone looked towards the direction of the sound and realized that there were actually 5 Lord of Heavens standing at the door. They were all hugging their shoulders as they looked over. Their eyes were filled with mockery and disdain. They were like high and mighty emperors looking down at trash like them. I didn't expect that out of the 8 who succeeded in possession, only 5 returned here. I wonder what happened to the other 3? Yi Tianyun looked at the 5 of them. Each of their cultivation was very shocking. The strongest was a Lord of Heaven level 5, while the weakest was a Lord of Heaven level 2. After possessing someone else's body, they still needed to fuse with the body for a period of time. Their cultivation couldn't be too high. In an instant, everyone's gaze fell on them. Their hearts instantly sank. Their appearance here undoubtedly meant that they wanted to silence them. You don't need to know this. This is the first time in history that someone could kill our god general. Seems like you can't be left alive. The killing dragon god general looked at him coldly. The baleful aura in the surroundings was mobilized and enveloped the 5 of them. Boss, don't be angry. Today, these guys will all stay here. We originally planned to encircle and annihilate them after number 9 and number 10 came out. I didn't expect the plan to be brought forward. The other killing dragon god general smiled. His companion had died, but he didn't look sad at all. Instead, he seemed to be talking about a stranger. Everyone's hearts sank. It seemed like they had been prepared for a long time. It was only because of Yi Tianyun's killing that they had moved ahead of time. Although they didn't know where the other 3 were, there were 5 Lord of Heaven in front of them. It had to be said that the pressure was quite great. Do you think you can deal with us with just 5 people? One of the Lord of Heaven stepped forward and looked at them coldly. There were more than 10 Lord of Heaven present, and that didn't include the other celestial lords. Of course, celestial lords were useless in this battle. Even earthly lords were useless. This was a battle of the Lord of Heaven level. Those below the Lord of Heaven level were basically useless. They were all burdens. Now, 5 of them against more than 10 Lord of Heaven. It had to be said that there was a huge disparity in numbers, but they weren't afraid at all. Oh, just you trash? The leading killing dragon god general said disdainfully. Who knows how many Lord of Heaven have died in our hands? Especially since this is our territory. From the beginning, you were destined to become fertilizer here. Fertilizer? Yi Tianyun repeated this word in his heart. Could it be that those corpses were sucked into the ground? They didn't disappear, but were buried underground? Take a closer look at the baleful aura. How was it formed? Usually, it was formed from the accumulation of countless corpses and resentment. Only then could such a large amount of baleful aura be accumulated. Such a dense baleful aura was beneficial to anyone. It was definitely beneficial to the killing gods. This way, it was equivalent to a great supplement that could help them cultivate. Chapter 937. The baleful aura in the god-killing pagoda became denser and surged in all directions, almost enveloping the entire place. This was like a huge god-killing formation, trapping everyone inside. If the density got higher, it would disturb the Lord of Heaven, distract them, and even cause chi deviation. As for those star monarchs, they were naturally panicking. If they continued to stay here, they would definitely suffer chi deviation. By then, not to mention their companions, even their masters would be killed. But now, they couldn't escape and were trapped here. Unless they destroyed the door, they wouldn't be able to escape. All the Lord of Heaven members looked at each other and didn't know how to work together. Although they had the advantage in numbers, they didn't have any tacit understanding and were even on guard against each other. Not to mention having twice the number of people, even if they had 3 times the number of people, if they didn't work together, it would be much more difficult. Swish! When the baleful aura enveloped everything, they all disappeared and merged into the baleful aura. They were waiting for this moment. As long as there was baleful aura, this would be their world. Be careful, stand by my side. Nian Ciu hurriedly grabbed Yi Tianyun and pulled him to her side. A high-grade reincarnation grade whip appeared in her hand. She used a whip-type weapon, and her might was instantly raised to the maximum. She released her power to the maximum and locked down the space around her. Her expression became nervous. Her cultivation wasn't high, only at the 2nd level of Lord of Heaven. It wasn't high because compared to so many experts, it could only be considered below average. However, according to her age, her cultivation was already very shocking. She was already at the 2nd stage of the Heaven Monarch realm at such a young age and was much stronger than many elders. Otherwise, why would those elders be so respectful to her? Not only was her talent shocking, but her abilities were also shocking. Yi Tianyun stood beside her and looked around. He smiled and said, "There is no need to be so nervous. They are just some minor characters who are just giving away experience." Of course, he was calm. Others couldn't leave, but that didn't mean he couldn't. He could easily teleport out, and this god-killing pagoda couldn't stop him. As long as he could still feel the teleportation, he would definitely be able to escape. If he felt that he couldn't teleport out, then he definitely couldn't teleport out. He had this feeling before, which was when he was in the teleportation channel or in the heavenly mandate divine planet. In this situation, he should be able to easily escape after leveling up his teleportation. These were divine skills, but it didn't mean that they were invincible. Only by increasing his level would he be able to pass through this barrier. Of course, it's easier to earn crazy points now than before. When the time is right or when he needs it, he will definitely not hesitate to level up. Usually, he will upgrade everything he sees, but when he needs it, he doesn't have enough crazy points to upgrade, which is the most embarrassing. What nonsense are you talking about? You're still acting high and mighty in front of me now? Nian Xiaoyu glared at him angrily. She stretched out her hand and knocked his head. The situation is urgent now. There is no way to clearly investigate the surroundings. The other party is also so powerful. There is no way to deal with them easily. I originally came here to train you, but I didn't expect to encounter such a situation. It's terrible. She felt a little bitter in her heart. Crushing the communication jade pendant was completely useless. There is no way to pass through this god-killing tower. How can I ask for help from outside? If there is no such thing, these divine generals will naturally not be so confident. Lee Danyun touched his forehead. She knocked his head again. It seems that she took his words as a joke. His current strength is not very strong, at least not weak. It is not a problem to deal with 2 or 3 layers of Lord of Heaven. No one would believe that he can kill a strong cultivator that many levels higher than him. But there was a scream not far away. Everyone's heart tightened. They couldn't help but look at the source of the sound, but they couldn't see anything. Not to mention seeing, they can't explore very far with their spiritual sense. This evil chi is too powerful, it can block everything. Damn it, I can't see anything. If a sneak attack comes, it will be troublesome. Nian Xiaoyu thought for a moment and dragged Yi Tianyun and fled to the side. Very quickly, they escaped to the side of the wall. Although they still can't escape, at least one side won't attack them. This will undoubtedly make them slightly safer and they will have less to guard against. If they were in the central region, then they will be attacked from the back, and it will be easy for a sneak attack to succeed. Yi Tianyun actually wanted to say that he can roughly guess their direction. If it wasn't to protect Nian Xiaoyu, he would have charged up and beaten them up. As for the lives and deaths of the others, it has nothing to do with him. Now, the most important thing is to protect Nian Xiaoyu and kill the god generals that are preparing to sneak attack them. There is a dangerous aura. Nian Xiaoyu's gaze turned cold. It is as though she has a natural sense of danger. She really felt that there are people approaching them. Yi Tianyun was very impressed with her actions. He didn't expect her sense of danger to be so good. She can even feel people approaching from all directions. In reality, there are god generals rapidly approaching them. Their cultivations aren't high. They are only at the 3rd layer of Lord of Heaven. Their arrangement was mainly for those with higher cultivation to deal with stronger heaven monarchs, while those with lower cultivation would deal with those with lower cultivation. Nian Xiaoyu and Yi Tianyun are obviously his targets. The one who came over is God General Tianqin. His eyes are flashing with red light. In his hand is a high-grade reincarnation-grade dagger. He can take their lives at any time. You think you are safe just by hiding in a corner? God General Tianqin sneered and locked his gaze on Yi Tianyun. Why did he kill Old 9 and Old 10? Does he have some special treasure on him? He doesn't think that Yi Tianyun is strong enough to kill his companions. Although they are nearby, they can't see the situation inside clearly. They can control the formation, but if they aren't inside, they can't see the situation inside clearly. Because of this, they feel that Yi Tianyun has some special treasure on him that can suppress the existence of souls. This is not the first time they have encountered such a situation. God General Tianqin sneered. His figure flashed and completely merged into the murderous aura. In the next moment his figure appeared above Nian Xiaoyu's head. He ruthlessly stabbed downwards and directly greeted Nian Xiaoyu's head. He chose to kill in one move. Nian Xiaoyu immediately felt a sense of danger coming from above. She fiercely swung her whip and lashed upwards. Instantly, it turned into a giant dragon and accurately swept towards God General Tianqin. Such accurate judgment is much better than other Lord of Heavens. God General Tianqin's expression instantly changed. He didn't think that he would really be discovered. He quickly turned his body and dodged to the side. Swish! When his body leaned to the side, a cold light flashed and the spear shot out like a dragon. Like lightning, it pierced through his body and lifted him into the air. "Where are you going to hide?" Yingyan held the heavenly god spear and looked mockingly at God General Tianqin. God General Tianqin was so focused on Nian Xiaoyu that he didn't notice him. How stupid! Chapter 938. Divine General Shachen was lifted into the air by Yi Tianyun. He didn't die immediately, but he couldn't break free. Nian Xiaoyu was stunned. She didn't expect Yi Tianyun's attack to be so domineering. She didn't expect Yi Tianyun's attack to be so overbearing. Divine General Shachen twisted his body, but the heavenly divine spear was firmly fixed on him. He couldn't break free from the heavenly divine spear. "It seems that I'm really insignificant. Even I don't need to guard against you. No matter how weak I am, I'm still an enemy." Yi Tianyun looked at him playfully. He immediately shook the heavenly divine spear in his hand, and a violent force burst out from inside the heavenly divine spear. Bang! The divine General Shachen turned into a mist of blood. His eyes were filled with unwillingness, but they were also filled with fear. Ding! Successfully killed Divine General Shachen. Reward: 5 trillion EXP, 15 million crazy point, 1 million SBS. Obtained God-killing secret art and God-killing array. Obtained God-killing dagger, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing necklace, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing soul, rare. Ding. Reward: 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 5 million proficiency points, 1 ticket to God Realm Lottery Roulette. Since the difference in cultivation level was quite large, he could still get the reward for killing above his level, but the reward for killing above his level was relatively ordinary. The most important thing was still to get a chance to draw the lottery. That was the key. Evil Qi quickly rushed into Yi Tianyun's body, but he quickly stored it and continued to absorb it little by little. This evil Qi can be stored. After all, it's not an attack. On the contrary, it can be used for cultivation. That's why he can store it. He can't store the evil Qi that he absorbed with the Heaven Devourer divine art. It's directly entered the experience system, so it's naturally impossible to store it in the inventory. Besides, it's meaningless, so it's better to just absorb it directly. Can I continue to strengthen it? Yi Tianyun felt that the blood-red bead in his body could continue to strengthen, especially under the influence of the baleful Qi. It was the same for the 2 divine generals he had killed earlier. Only their powerful baleful auras could replenish him. What happened? Divine General Tianqin is dead. The other god generals looked over at God General Tianqin. The battle had only just begun, yet their comrade had already died? This is their territory. As long as they use their full strength, they can absolutely crush them. Especially since they didn't know their existence. But now, he had died just like that, and died so quickly. Everyone was stunned, and their eyes quickly gathered on Yi Tianyun. They all saw that Yi Tianyun was the one who killed him, and everything was so incredible. They thought that Yi Tianyun died because he used a treasure, but now it seems that Yi Tianyun died with his own strength. Tianyun is said. Tianyun died. Is Tianyun died. Tian, they couldn't believe it, but the truth was right in front of them. They had to believe it. Even Nian Xiaoyu, who was standing next to Tianyun, was stunned. Yi Tianyun's attack was so fast that she couldn't even see it clearly. She didn't think that Yi Tianyun's sneak attack was successful. Even if it was a sneak attack, it had to be based on a certain amount of strength. The Lord of Heaven is very sensitive to the surroundings. Even if there's a sneak attack behind you, you can sense it immediately. If you can't sense it, the only reason is that the attack was too fast and fierce. You can't even react before you are killed. At this time, she remembered Yi Tianyun's words, which was to tell her not to worry. Your cultivation has reached the Lord of Heaven? Although she didn't dare to believe it, she still asked such a silly question. You feel that I have broken through to the Lord of Heaven? Tianyun shook off the blood on the heavenly god's spear and smiled at her. No. You felt that Yi Tianyun's cultivation didn't reach the Lord of Heaven but the Earth Monarch level. After sensing it carefully, she covered her mouth and said in shock, You broke through to the Earth Monarch level? She was shocked again. She brought Yi Tianyun here with the intention of helping Yi Tianyun break through to the Earth Monarch level. But how did he break through in such a short time? The key was that explosive power. Why didn't it seem to be at the Earth Monarch level? Let's talk about this later. There are two people who have their eyes on us. Yi Tianyun looked up and saw two divine generals abandoning the others and quickly outflanking him. Their target was Yi Tianyun. These two god generals didn't have high cultivation. They were at level 3 of the Lord of Heaven and level 4 of the Lord of Heaven respectively. They weren't the strongest god generals. But to them, this was already very shocking. The original plan was to devour them bit by bit. But now, they had no choice but to send some people to attack Yi Tianyun. Get rid of him first. He killed 3 of our brothers. We can't tolerate this. That's right. If the Lord finds out, we will definitely be punished severely. Facing the suppression of the two, Yi Tianyun's heart sank. He had no choice but to be cautious. Because the other party was enraged and they had completely exploded. The murderous aura in the surroundings surged into their bodies like crazy. Following which, their bodies swelled up and became 3 times bigger. They turned into giants. Their bodies turned red and the murderous aura seemed to materialize. It surrounded their bodies and formed an extremely hard crystal armor. God-slaying technique. After using the God-slaying technique, they would enter the God-slaying state and their combat power would increase at a terrifying rate. 2 million star power. 3 million star power. 5 million points of star power. 3,760,000 star power. Finally, it stopped at 3,760,000 star power. The other one had a higher cultivation level and reached 4,770,000 star power. It was just a difference of 1 level and he had an additional 610,000 star power. Their combat power increased exponentially as if it was free. Compared to the 2 souls that they had dealt with previously, it was much stronger. They didn't expect it to explode under the circumstances of having a physical body. It was as if they were on drugs and it surged crazily. No wonder the initial combat power was just a reference. The actual combat power would definitely be blinding. In the face of this terrifying pressure, the surrounding cultivators could feel it. Even Yen Xiaoyu was deeply shocked. Her body started to tremble slightly. Chapter 939. The 2 godly generals charged over. Both of them used their strongest power, aiming to kill in one strike. They were careless before. Now that one of their companions died, they knew what they had to do. They had to use their strongest power to completely suppress Yi Tianyun and Yen Xiu. Especially Yi Tianyun, he had already become their target. As for his physical body, it had nothing to do with them. They had taken over other people's bodies and basically wouldn't change their bodies. It wasn't easy for them to adapt to this body, so it was impossible for them to change it. Unless it was really heaven-defying. Yi Tianyun's body was not bad, but they felt a sense of danger. You attack from that side, I'll attack from the other side. We'll outflank him and kill him. The 2 of them communicated telepathically and came up with a plan. They wanted to suppress Yi Tianyun with absolute power. Isn't this making a mountain out of a molehill? The other one was confused. I saw that kid's attack just now. Its power is not bad, it's at least at the 1st or 2nd level of the Lord of Heaven's power. However, it's still lacking compared to us. Don't be so long-winded, didn't you hear the boss shouting at us? The Divine Dragon Slayer General was their boss. He was the leader of the 10 godly generals and naturally led them in battle. When the divine dragon slayer general saw Yi Tianyun's situation, he didn't hesitate to send 2 intermediate godly generals to attack and let them use their strongest power to kill Yi Tianyun. The divine dragon slayer general who was paying attention to this side only took a quick glance before continuing to fight with the other Lord of Heaven. The other Lord of Heaven's cultivation was above the 6th or 7th level. Thus, they had to be careful in suppressing this side. Otherwise, he would personally kill his way over and suppress Yi Tianyun. Although they had an advantage in terms of terrain, many situations were uncontrollable. Even he couldn't stay here for too long. If they continuously used their fiendish energy, they might go berserk. It could even be said that they were more likely to go berserk than others. This wasn't a joke or a contradiction. Cultivating this kind of demonic technique was a dangerous path. If they weren't careful, they might go berserk. Especially when one's power was unleashed to the extreme, it was even easier for one to go berserk. He didn't want to continue unleashing his power. He had to unleash even more power to quickly end the battle. Facing the 2 death god divine generals, Nian Ciyu felt more and more intense. She didn't even need to specially sense it to be able to feel 2 terrifying forces charging over from the front. If he wanted to use his full strength, he would definitely expose his location. Of course, it was not necessary for them to do so. In the face of absolute power, any preparation would be futile. Prepare to fight. Nian Ciyu was not afraid at all. She gripped the long whip tightly in her hand and a cold light flashed in her eyes. Even though she was facing 2 powerful cultivators, she was not afraid at all. At the same time, she took out a pill, ready to consume it and fight. This pill was no ordinary pill. It was similar to a berserk pill that could temporarily increase one's strength. No matter what the result was, she would at least give it a try. There's no need for that. Leave this place to me. Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand and pressed down her little hand, indicating that she should not consume this pill and leave everything to him. No, I am a dignified elder. Let a junior like you. Nian Ciyu turned her head. She felt that this was not in line with the rules. Let a junior protect her. How could it be? The one who is strong is the teacher. If anything happens to you, the Heavenly Mandate Region Lord will be very sad. The Heavenly Mandate Region will be managed by you in the future. Yi Tianyun smiled slightly and stood in front of Nian Ciyu. Nian Ciyu was stunned. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a complicated look. She still clenched her teeth and said, I can't let you face them alone. I will also face the enemy with you. She was still so stubborn. She didn't think that Yi Tianyun could win against them alone. He definitely needed some support. Okay, you can help me from the side. Yi Tianyun didn't say much to her. He had already begun to communicate with the system in his heart. Exchange for the evil demon god set. Successfully deducted 50 million sin points to exchange for the evil demon god set. Evil demon god set requires level 80. After wearing it, the wearer can transform into the evil demon god at any time. All strength increased by 200 times, defense increased by 200 times, speed increased by 50 times. When entering the evil demon god mode, all attacks become long-range attacks, can attack anything within 1,000 miles, and has a burning effect. Critical hit rate increased by 50%. Consumes 100,000 crazy points per minute. He now has enough sin points to exchange for the evil demon god set. He doesn't need to wear the evil spirit set, but the more powerful evil demon god set. Equip the evil demon god set. The next moment he equipped the evil demon god set. His whole body was immediately covered with a thin layer of armor. There are dense demon god lines on the armor, like water ripples, layer after layer superimposed on the armor. An incomparably evil aura exuded from the surface of his body, eroding the ground. In an instant, Nian Ciyu felt that Yi Tianyun has become a different person. She felt that his strength has increased by many times. Her feeling is not wrong. Even if he doesn't transform, his strength and defense are increased by 200 times. He definitely has the power to kill gods. Evil demon god transformation. Yi Tianyun's eyes shot out a black light, and immediately, a black light enveloped his body, and a dark force soared into the sky, penetrating the baleful aura that surrounded them in one fell swoop. The evil chi is very strong, but in the face of Yi Tianyun's evil chi, it immediately retreated a few dozen feet. This allowed his field of vision to increase by more than 100 feet in an instant. It was extremely terrifying. The evil aura he released actually had a burning effect. It could burn everything to ashes, including this evil aura. He was still burned to ashes and disappeared without a trace. Then what appeared in front of Nian Xiaoyu is a completely different Yi Tianyun. His body didn't change much, but his hair became a lot longer and slightly fluttered in the air. Whether it is his arms or body, they didn't become bigger. It was just that when looking at him from the side, his handsome face, his demonic eyes, and that devilish smile made him look like a devil god that was laughing at the world. The only thing that changed the most is on his forehead. There are two thin long horns, slightly curved to the side. It is scary. The two killing god divine generals who rushed to this side suddenly froze. A feeling of death surged in their heart. For a moment, they didn't dare to approach half a step. They just stopped in the middle of the evil chi. They don't dare to step half a step towards the territory occupied by the evil chi. Chapter 940. This is the power of the evil devil god set? It feels pretty good. Yi Tianyun was very satisfied with this set of equipment. The improvements in all aspects were considerable. At the same time, the evil spirit's set was kept away. Nian Xiu looked at Yi Tianyun with her mouth wide open. When she felt this surging aura, her heart trembled. This power might not be the strongest, but it was much stronger than before. It made it hard for her to breathe. It was as though the surrounding air was being burned away by this evil aura. It was fine even if she didn't breathe. It was just that the feeling that was transmitted over made her feel stifled. What power is this? Or is it the power of the human race? Nian Xiu widened her eyes and felt that everything was unbelievable. Where was the Earth Monarch cultivation? He was telling her that it was the Earth Monarch cultivation? Whoever believed it would die the fastest. The two god generals who were hiding in the baleful aura trembled. The other cultivators couldn't help but look over. They seemed to feel a terrifying power coming from afar. They didn't know who it was and whether it was friend or foe. What's going on? That kid is so strong? God Killer Dragon's heart trembled. He quickly transmitted a message. Don't act rashly. We will go over to support you and suppress him together. The feeling of fighting for many years made him feel a dangerous aura. He had to be cautious, so he had to choose 4 people to suppress Yi Tianyun, a kid that was judged to be harmless. The danger was limited to the soul state. Who would be afraid of him in their physical state? It was a pity that he made a wrong estimation and immediately killed his companions. Now, he couldn't let his decision fail again. It would only make him look incompetent. World-burning evil flames. Yi Tianyun stretched his hand forward and clenched lightly. The area in front of him that was filled with baleful aura suddenly had a boom. Extreme black flames rushed into the sky and smashed into the towering ceiling, charring a large area. The two of them screamed under the black flames. The two of them tried to escape, but it was meaningless. The extreme black flames were constantly devouring their bodies. Upon closer inspection, they were actually 2 kinds of terrifying flames, one yin and one yang. This was the first time he used them after obtaining the 2 reincarnation-level flames. He mixed them together and used them to their fullest potential. His combat power had soared to 4.68 million points of star power after the stacking. Actually, he didn't surpass the other party by much, but it was already very good to be able to catch up. The 2 of them were inexplicably burned. The burning pain on their bodies made them panic. The next moment, a figure rushed to their side. A cold light flickered and pierced through the head of one of them. The spear was like a dragon. Bang! Just like piercing through a watermelon, his head was blasted apart by a single shot. What followed was a huge explosion of experience that surged into the system. Ding! Successfully killed Divine General Luo. Reward, 500 billion EXP, 18 million CPS, 1 million SPs. Obtained God-slaying technique, God-slaying formation. Obtained God-slaying sword, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying bracelet, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying soul, rare. Ding. Reward, 50 billion EXP, 2 million CPS, 5 million proficiency points, 1 God Realm lottery roulette ticket. Not long after the experience was obtained, Etiennen's figure flashed again. It was no different from teleportation. This was a 50 times increase in speed. On top of the original foundation, it was a 50 times increase in speed. How could it be slow? Etienne caught up with the Divine General in a blink of an eye. The heavenly divine spear pierced through the Divine General Luo. When the Divine General Luo saw Etienne's attack, it was already too late. Bang! His head was pierced by the spear again. The last thing he could see was a flash of cold light. It was as if the Grim Reaper was holding a scythe that flashed with cold light and harvested their lives. Successfully killed Divine General Luo. Reward, 500 billion EXP, 19 million CPS, 1 million SPs. Obtained God-slaying secret art and God-slaying array. Obtained God-slaying staff, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying ring, low-grade reincarnation level. God-slaying soul, rare. Ding. Reward, 50 billion EXP, 2 million CPS, 5 million proficiency points, 1 God Realm lottery roulette ticket. In a short period of time, the two divine generals were slaughtered just like that. They were as dead as they could be. Immediately, he quickly returned to Nianxiu's side with the heavenly divine spear in his hand. Nothing changed. There was no damage on his body. The advantage of the increase in combat power was that he could crush them in all aspects. Although it wasn't overbearing enough to crush them with fire alone, at least it could make them panic. If it was in the past, they wouldn't have panicked at all since they could only burn the skin. It's done, Etienne said softly. Nianxiu's body shook as she looked at Etienne's back in shock. How long has it been? 2 Lord of Heaven died just like that? The divine dragon generals who rushed over were all shocked. It had only been a short while, and their comrade had died. They didn't do anything, but they were killed just like that. He can see us? The divine general Slaughter Dragon was shocked. Their biggest advantage is that they can hide in the evil chi, so the other party can't see them. But just now, they saw Etienne killing their people easily. There is no doubt that Etienne can see them. The remaining 2 people's faces sank. Both of them are the strongest divine generals. Among them, the divine general Slaughter Dragon is the strongest leader, and the other one is a Lord of Heaven 4th layer. Previously, they killed several Lord of Heaven and many star monarchs. Now many star monarchs have begun to fall into cultivation deviation and become puppets controlled by this place. It can be said to be an overwhelming victory, but when it came to Etienne, it didn't work at all. Boss, what do we do now? I feel that he is very strong. It will be difficult to deal with him. The divine general Slaughter Dragon's eyes were cold and filled with rage. But reason told him that he definitely can't be rash. His 2 companions were easily killed. If they rushed over now, wouldn't they be easily killed? Indeed, my judgment was wrong. I didn't expect that 5 of us 10 brothers would die in his hands. The divine general of Deathly Dragon held his sword so tightly that the webbing between his thumb and forefinger was bleeding, but he didn't notice it. Chapter 941. Etienne glanced at the God-Killer Dragon General. He wasn't in a hurry to rush over and fight with them. He just waited for them to come over. After all, he had to protect Nianxiu. Who knew what would happen later? So for safety's sake, it was better to stay nearby. You can see the situation at the side? Nianxiu asked. Yes, but I can't see the entire area. Etienne wasn't lying. If they were too far away, he really couldn't see clearly. Nianxiu heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't know how Etienne did it. Her senses were very strong. At most, she could sense that there were people at the side, but she couldn't pinpoint the exact location. This kind of sensing ability was already very strong. Some people couldn't even sense it and were killed. If Nian Xiu's cultivation was a little stronger, she would be able to deal with them easily. The baleful energy wouldn't affect her too much. Hong! Suddenly, 3 balls of light exploded not far away and dispersed the baleful energy. Yi Tianyun looked up and saw 3 giant phantoms in the distance. They were totem phantoms of different races. One was a giant eagle, one was a giant roc, and one was a giant python. After the 3 types of totem phantoms exploded, they suppressed the baleful energy. They didn't continue hiding their strength. Now that things had come to this, they had no choice but to explode. If they continued to hide, they would only die. After the baleful energy was suppressed, the 2 god generals that were hiding had nowhere to hide. They were completely exposed in front of everyone. After all, with the protection of such god totems, they could easily suppress the baleful energy. I didn't expect them to be so tough. I thought they would be beaten up. Yi Tianyun didn't believe that they were all idiots. They just didn't want to expose their identities. As expected, after they exploded, their might was revealed and they easily suppressed the baleful energy. It was possible that the 3 of them chose to work together. Even if they couldn't coordinate with each other, they would at least be able to show their strength. If this continued, their disciples would be corroded by the baleful energy. When that happened, their losses would be even greater. I didn't think that it would be the 3 great races from the realm of the gods. It looks like we don't even need to do anything to suppress them. Nian Xiu's eyes lit up. The strength of the 3 races that exploded out was not bad. They were all at the 6th or 7th level of the Lord of Heaven. They were even stronger than the Divine Dragon General and the others. Even if it wasn't enough, it wouldn't be a problem to force them to retreat. This isn't the ending I want to see. Tianyun narrowed his eyes as he looked over. These 2 were fat sheep. How could he miss out on so much EXP? Furthermore, they had many treasures on them. Previously, they had killed several divine generals and obtained many reincarnation-grade weapons. Killing people and robbing them was still the most beneficial. He easily obtained several superior-grade reincarnation weapons. Even if he did not use them, it was still a good choice to use them as a weapon. The faces of the Divine Dragon General and the others sank. Now that there were only 2 of them left, with the addition of the other party's explosive power, it was undoubtedly going to be much more difficult to deal with. Seems like I can only use that move. Even if it is a little wasteful, at least I have to make them stay here. The Divine Dragon General's eyes turned cold. He stretched out his hand and slammed it on the ground. Bang! The blood-colored patterns on the ground spread out rapidly. Instantly, the entire god-slaying pagoda trembled. Vaguely, everyone could feel a bad premonition. One by one, they charged towards the other party. Kill the 2 of them. Don't let them continue. All of them executed their strongest techniques and suppressed the other party. The Divine Wind General who was protecting the Divine Dragon General picked up his huge sword and charged forward. His entire body was covered in red crystals. His strength exploded to the limit as he clashed head-on with the other party. Dang, dang, dang. Their attacks continuously landed on the Divine Wind General's body. However, they only left shallow marks on his body. Their tyrannical defense was evident. However, they were still in a state of being beaten up. The main purpose of killing the Divine Wind General was to defend against their attacks and not to kill them. Although the difference in cultivation was not small, it was truly shocking for them to be able to fight against them when they were at their peak. This was the power of the god-slaying pagoda. In addition, they were being disturbed by the baleful aura. It more or less invaded their battle strength. The Divine Dragon General focused on controlling the god-slaying pagoda. He wanted to release the strongest power of the god-slaying pagoda. Just when he thought he could continue, a cold light flickered over. Without thinking, a thin sword shot out from his palm. Clang! The Divine Dragon General was sent flying. At the same time, the entire god-slaying pagoda stopped shaking. The baleful aura that was emitting out was rapidly decreasing. I don't know what you want to do, but it will definitely not be a good thing. Yi Tianyun pointed his celestial god spear at him. His eyes flickered with cold light. Of course, he would not stand at the side and watch like an idiot. The Divine Dragon General was definitely plotting something by doing this. He had to stop this quickly. Otherwise, if something happened, even he would not be able to control it. His current strength was not the strongest. He was still slightly weaker than the Divine Dragon General. Hence, if he wanted to control everything, he had to avoid some accidents. The Divine Dragon General looked at him coldly. He stomped on the ground. Following that, the ground started to shake. Corpses climbed up from the ground. Their eyes were empty and filled with only baleful aura. They twisted their bodies and kept getting up from the ground. More and more corpses appeared. Without a doubt, they were the cultivators who died above. They thought they were completely dead. Unexpectedly, they came back to life. Unless their bodies were destroyed, they would be moved to the bottom if they were simply hacked to death. Now, they seemed to have come back to life. They twisted their bodies and charged over. Instantly, dozens of puppets charged at Tianyun. Their cultivation was not high. However, the weakest was a 5th or 6th refinement star venerate. The strongest was a 2nd or 3rd refinement earth monarch. Have fun. Don't disturb me. The Divine Dragon General smiled coldly. His figure quickly disappeared in the baleful aura. He was prepared to continue with his task. Tianyun looked at the puppets charging over and smiled. This was undoubtedly free experience. He was just about to say that he was lacking experience to level up. Now, a big gift was coming. Swish. A whip lashed over. The cultivator that charged over exploded into a blood mist. He was deader than dead. What? Tianyun looked to the side and discovered Nianxiu standing at the side. She was constantly brandishing her whip at the cultivators that charged over. Let me help you. Eliminate all these puppets, Nianxiu said in a deep voice. Chapter 942. Elder Nian, you don't have to do that for the time being, just leave it to me. No, I can't let you do it alone. I can deal with these puppets. Nianxiu ignored him and continued to whip the puppets. With one whip, the puppets would explode. Tianyun felt helpless. He quickly waved his hand, and the puppet that rushed towards him immediately burned, and in the blink of an eye, it was burned to ashes. It can't be any more dead. Compared to Nianxiu's whip, Tianyun's wide-range attack is more overbearing. He can't waste so much EXP. Successfully killed puppet, 6th level star monarch. Reward, 64 billion EXP, 5,000. 000 crazy points, 1. 800, 000 SPs, ding, successfully killed puppet, 1st level earth monarch. Reward, 1,000. 000 SPs. The EXP kept popping up. Even if it was a puppet, the reward was still quite a lot. Under his crazy attack, a large number of puppets were immediately burned to ashes. Nianxiu, who was at the side, was speechless. It was settled so quickly. What kind of evil martial art was this? Watching from the side, it looked as if his body had spontaneously combusted. With a swoosh, he was ignited. He didn't know what was going on. This is the horror of evil chi. As long as you are within the range of evil chi, you will be instantly ignited. He wouldn't be able to detect it at all. If he wanted to ignite it, it would be ignited. Divine Dragon General, who was hiding in the dark and continued to control the formation, noticed the situation here, and his face became even uglier. He knew that these puppets naturally can't stop Tianyun, but they can't even stop him for a while. Isn't this too scary? Damn it, it's all a pile of garbage. Hurry up and activate the formation, or else it will all be in vain. Divine Dragon General hid on the side and continued to control the formation. The Killing God Pagoda began to tremble violently as if it was preparing to activate something. When he just reactivated the formation, he looked up a little and found that Tianyun was gone. Where is he? Divine Dragon General was shocked, and immediately a sense of crisis came from behind, forcing him to jump up and continue to wave the sword in his hand. Ding. The two collided, and the rapier was almost bent to the chest of the divine dragon general by the pressure of the celestial divine spear. The spear almost pierced through him. Whether it is strength or reflexes, divine dragon general is a lot stronger than others. So Tianyun repeatedly failed to kill him in one move. What about this? Tianyun felt that he couldn't suppress it any longer. Xiong, divine dragon general was suddenly ignited, and the double flame immediately enveloped him. Intense pain came from the surface, and in the blink of an eye, it eroded his body. The fire can't burn him to death, but it will affect his combat power. It can't burn him to death, but it can affect his combat power. The divine dragon general let out a furious roar, and his eyes flashed with red light. A huge shadow of the god of slaughter emerged from his back. It was not his true self, but the shadow of their leader. An incomparably huge killing god aura pressed down from the sky, causing people to be unable to breathe. I am killing god. The figure behind the divine dragon general actually spoke. It raised its fist and smashed towards Tianyun. The baleful aura in the surroundings all rolled over and merged into the figure. In an instant, the figure became solid, and its strength increased by a lot. It was as if the killing god had possessed him. At the same time, the divine dragon general's face turned red, and blood burst out from all the veins in his body. It was obvious that this kind of power was beyond his body's endurance. Tianyun immediately noticed that baleful aura was pouring in from the feet of the divine dragon general. It was obvious that when the formation was opened, the effect was shown. So their real purpose was to open the killing god formation, and then release the power of the killing god. However, they only released a little bit of it. The divine dragon general had no choice but to use it, or else he would be suppressed by Tianyun. When the huge fist smashed down, countless vengeful spirits wailed and howled. It was unknown how many vengeful spirits there were in the killing god pagoda. Tianyun felt the terrifying pressure and was really unable to resist. Because after the addition of the killing god's power, the divine dragon general's battle power actually soared to 5 million star power, which was a lot stronger than him. This was only a small part of the power that was opened, and it was able to reach such a terrifying power. It must be said that the formation was really too powerful. When all of it was gathered together, the power that erupted out was extremely shocking. Quickly run! Nian Xiu hurriedly shouted, indicating for Tianyun to quickly escape from the locked range. It's useless, everything has been locked down. Even if the formation's effect was not fully activated, it is more than enough to deal with you guys. The divine dragon general's eyes were bloodshot, and his eyeballs could not be seen at all. It looked like he was really possessed by the killing god. Yeah, it's useless. Tianyun looked at the incoming fist and revealed an evil smile. Boom! The huge fist smashed down heavily on the area where Tianyun was standing. A red light soared into the sky, and a terrifying energy wave swept out in all directions. Some of the Star Lords who were further away were directly sent flying. After rolling a few rounds, they vomited blood and were seriously injured. As for those Lord of Heaven, they were sent flying for a distance. Under this explosion, the divine dragon general could finally take a breather. Nian Xiu looked over there with her red eyes, and her heart was in her throat. Her gaze quickly swept back and forth, hoping to see Tianyun's figure. Even if he only had one breath left, she had to save him. When they all thought that Tianyun was dead, a figure appeared behind the divine dragon general. An extreme piercing force pierced through the back of the divine dragon general like it was piercing through a piece of tofu. Following that, he was lifted up, and the killing god's power that was attached to his body quickly disappeared. The killing god that was condensed in the air shattered into countless red light spots, and drifted in all directions. How did you appear behind me? The divine dragon general looked behind him in disbelief. He could not see what was happening behind him, but he knew that the one who sneak attacked him was that Tianyun. The power of your move is not bad, but the weakness is really obvious. You can't move. Tianyun clicked his tongue and laughed. As for how I appeared behind you, you don't need to know, idiot. Come to think of it, a long time ago, I also met someone called the Divine Dragon General. They really have the same name, and both call themselves that. Of course, you think more than him, but you are a bit more stupid. Chapter 943. When the Death Dragon Divine General opened his mouth to say something, he suddenly felt a domineering force released from his chest and tore his body into pieces. The last thing he saw was the ceiling of the God-killing tower, and then everything was completely over, and he didn't know what happened. Ding! Successfully killed Dragon Divine General. Reward, 264 trillion EXP, 19 million crazy point, 1 million SPs. Obtained God-killing art, God-killing array. Obtained God-killing sword, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing ring, low-grade reincarnation level. God-killing soul, rare. Ding! Reward, 50 billion EXP, 2 million crazy points, 5 million proficiency points, 1 ticket to God Realm Lottery Roulette. Ding! Congratulations to player Etion Yun, successfully broke through to 3rd Refining Earth Monarch. Finally, he successfully leveled up to 264 trillion EXP. It's hard not to break through. The main reason is that he bought a 200 times EXP card before. He didn't buy any other cards, he only bought a 200 times EXP card. Faced with so many puppets, after killing a small portion of them, he finally chose to buy a 200 times experience card. Buying it means that he must kill all of them, especially these 2 big-headed Lord of Heaven experts. If he doesn't kill them, the card will have no meaning. Comfortable. Etion Yun felt very comfortable. This kind of explosive experience is what he wanted. If it was the previous experience, it would be too slow. Under the effect of 264 times the experience, it exploded in an instant. Boss. The Death Dragon Divine General was shocked. He didn't expect his boss to be killed, especially when Etion Yun is still unscathed. He wanted to vomit blood. He felt like everything was an illusion. He died in the blink of an eye. Not to mention him, Nian Ciu and the others also had the same reaction. The terrible power is beyond their imagination. Obviously, that punch hit the back of the Death Dragon Divine General. How can it still appear behind him? This really puzzled them. No matter what, the result was what they wanted to see. It's your turn. Etion Yun didn't waste any time as he looked at the Wind Immortal General with an evil and handsome look. This was the effect of the Evil Demon God equipment set. It made people look extremely demonic and evil. The Killing Wind God General's legs trembled, and he hurriedly formed hand seals. Alright, the doors of the Killing God Pagoda will open and let me escape. He could mobilize the Killing God's power here, but even their boss had been killed, so there was no point in mobilizing it. Etion Yun walked over unhurriedly, waiting for the Divine Wind General to open this door. The other Lord of Heaven also knew what Etion Yun was thinking, so they did not rush forward to stop the Wind Divine General. If they were trapped here, it would be difficult for them to open it. Rumble. After a moment, the door was opened. The Divine Wind General first took out a jade pendant, and after ruthlessly crushing it, he looked at Etion Yun malevolently and roared, "You are dead. The people who barged in this time will kill you one by one in the future." Is that so? I am looking forward to it. Unknowingly, Etion Yun already appeared behind the Divine Wind General. His heavenly divine spear had already pierced through, easily piercing through him and lifting him in the air. This scene is exactly the same as before, and now it reappeared again, causing people's hair to stand on end. Each and every one of them were like mutton skewers. All of them were lifted up by Etion Yun. One must know that these are Lord of Heaven. Such an overbearing Lord of Heaven is like slaughtering dogs, causing their hearts to involuntarily tremble. If it was them, wouldn't they be dead for sure? Our Lord will take revenge for us. There is no fear in the Divine Wind General's eyes, only madness. After fighting on the battlefield for so many years, of course, he is not afraid of death. The main reason he opened the door is to send a message. In a situation where the door is closed, even if it is, they can't send a message to the outside, so opening the door is not to escape, but to send a message to his remaining companions. I said, "You are very welcome to come and take revenge." Etion Yun indifferently smiled, not the slightest bit concerned. For others, it is very scary, but for him, there is not a bit of worry here. In any case, there is no one who needs his protection. The barefoot is not afraid of the shoes. Let them come and take revenge. It is the same as giving him experience. As soon as he finished speaking, his hand trembled, and the divine wind general completely turned into a blood mist, dead as can be. Even if he wants to take over a body to be reborn, it is impossible. Here, it is impossible to take over a body to be reborn. Only in the Killing God Great Formation can such a condition be established. It is very obvious that this Killing God pagoda was built by the Killing God, giving them the best conditions to succeed in taking over a body. It can even be said that this can make their soul stay longer. In normal times, before they can find a body to take over, they will disappear. Soul is not allowed to exist in the world, so it will quickly disappear unless there is a container or a good environment, otherwise there is no way to stay. Ding! Successfully killed Dragon Divine General. Reward, 2. 37 trillion EXP, 18 million Crazy Point, 1 million SPs. Obtained Killing God Secret Art, Killing God Great Formation. Obtained Killing God Huge Sword, low-grade reincarnation level. Killing God Necklace, low-grade reincarnation level. Killing God Soul, rare. Ding! Reward, 50 billion EXP, 2 million Crazy Points, 5 million Proficiency Points, 1 ticket to God Realm Lottery Roulette. Except for the weapons, everything else is obtained repeatedly. Originally, they are the same group of people, of course. The things that dropped are of course repeated. This is not surprising. Tianyun is only interested in the EXP and Crazy Point. The number of EXP that dropped is too much, which makes him very satisfied. He knew a long time ago that the higher the level, the higher the reward value for killing. Of course, the divine skill needs Crazy Point to level up. Just the EXP alone is enough for him to drink. Now that he has more than 200 trillion EXP, it seems really good, but compared to the 200 trillion EXP he needs now, he must kill a 4th layer Lord of Heaven. He swept his gaze forward. Many people trembled. Among them, the 3 Lord of Heaven hurriedly stood up. This one is the Lord of Heaven of Giant Rock God Realm. Thank you for your help. Giant Rock God Realm welcomes you. This one is the Lord of Heaven of Giant Eagle God Realm. Thank you for your help, friend. One by one, they stood up, scared them. They don't want to provoke Tianyun. They also want to say they're backing, hope that Tianyun won't be hostile to them. Chapter 944. Tianyun glanced at them, then turned into a ray of light and rushed over, scaring those self-destructing Lord of Heaven into taking a few steps back. Bang, bang, bang. Following that, a few blood mists exploded in the air. Those were cultivators who had gone mad. Basically, there was no way to save them. Tianyun directly dealt with them to gain some experience. He could not waste the 200 times experience card. If he killed all these cultivators who had gone berserk, he could also obtain a very considerable amount of experience points. When they discovered that Tianyun was actually killing these cultivators who had gone mad, they instantly heaved a sigh of relief. They thought that Tianyun had gone mad and wanted to kill them as well. Luckily, he didn't kill us. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat. If he had really killed them, they probably wouldn't have been able to resist at all. Especially that elusive silhouette, they couldn't even see it, let alone resist it. Tianyun naturally wanted to kill them, but when he looked over, appraisal I actually showed him a lot of data. For example, how many sin points could he obtain from killing them? But if he wanted to kill some people, not only would he not obtain any sin points, he would also lose experience and character. They belonged to this category, which meant that he couldn't casually kill innocent people. As long as they didn't hate him, killing them would only lose experience. It was just that simple. This was something he had experienced before. Otherwise, if he could casually kill anyone, his experience would have exploded a long time ago. Now, can you guys destroy the god-killing pagoda? Tianyun looked at them and said indifferently, let's join forces and destroy the god-killing pagoda. Don't let them have the chance to rebuild it. They hurriedly nodded. Their eyes were filled with hatred, even if Tianyun didn't say it. they also wanted to do it. How many disciples had they lost here? If it was a normal loss, then it wouldn't matter, but this was a loss caused by a conspiracy, then it was another matter. Opportunity meant danger, and danger meant death. Everyone could understand this. But if this was a conspiracy, then it was another matter. Then, they started to spread out in all directions, trying to destroy the god-slaying pagoda's formation. It was indeed difficult, but with so many people trying to destroy it, destroying it was not a problem. When Yi Tianyun returned to Nianziyu's side, he saw that Nianziyu was staring at him in a daze. She was dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. "What's wrong? Don't you recognize me?" Yi Tianyun stopped his transformation and immediately returned to his normal appearance. When he returned to his original appearance, his face was still wearing that mask, so no one could recognize him. They didn't expose themselves, so naturally, no one would know about their situation. No. Nianziyu sized him up and asked suspiciously, "Are you really an Earth Monarch? Then do you want to sense carefully to see if I have the cultivation of an Earth Monarch?" Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand and gestured for her to check his body. The most accurate way was naturally to touch his body and feel the energy within it. This was the most accurate way to test it, much more accurate than sensing any aura. Nianziyu did not even think about it. She grabbed Yi Tianyun's arm without standing on ceremony and started to check his body situation. After circling around Yi Tianyun's body for a while, she received the feedback of a third refinement Earth Monarch cultivation, neither high nor low. Third refinement Earth Monarch. My God, weren't you just a peak star venerate earlier? Nianziyu discovered something even more shocking. Xiaochen was clearly just a peak star venerate when he came here. How long had it been, and he became a third refinement Earth Monarch? If it were anyone else, they would be dumbfounded and shocked. This felt like flying. Well, that's a secret. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly. Nianziyu rolled her eyes at him. This was nonsense. If he could go up, he had to be an Earth Monarch. This meant that after circling around, Yi Tianyun broke through to the third refinement Earth Monarch. The crucial thing was that a third refinement Earth Monarch could defeat the Lord of Heaven? What kind of power was that? Even the Lord of Heaven was suppressed. If you participate in the deity domain battle to heaven with this faction, won't you be able to fly? Nianziyu's eyes slowly filled with pleasant surprise. A third refinement Earth Monarch could definitely participate in the deity domain battle to heaven. It was just that it would not be very eye-catching. However, to be able to defeat the Lord of Heaven with such a tyrannical cultivation meant that he would have a place in the deity domain battle to heaven. That's hard to say. However, this is a secret. Elder Nian, you have to help me keep it a secret. Yi Tianyun smiled at her. Actually, it did not matter whether he kept it a secret or not. However, it was best to keep it a secret. That way, no one would know his true strength, and they would not be on guard against his existence. It was better to keep a low profile during the early stages of the deity domain battle to heaven. Nianziyu nodded heavily and revealed an "I understand" look. Then, she said sullenly, "I don't care how you became so strong. However, if it is harmful to your body, you still have to stop. You must not be in a rush for success. That is not good for you." It was not that there were no martial arts that could allow one's cultivation to break through quickly. However, it was very easy for problems to appear. For example, it was easy for one to go berserk or reach the limit easily. The faster one's cultivation broke through, the more unstable it was. The result would be that one would easily reach the limit. When the time comes, one would not be able to break through no matter what. There were simply too many of such things. A cultivator who looked like a genius would have a very fierce breakthrough at the beginning but would stagnate at the end. After asking around, they discovered that it was a type of martial arts that could be mastered quickly. Later on, when one reached the limit, one would not be able to break through. This was equivalent to digging one's own grave. One would be fierce at the beginning but would stagnate at the end. There was no future. It could be said that there were no shortcuts in cultivation. One had to be down to earth. Thinking that Ciu was so concerned about him, Yi Tianyun smiled. It seemed like she was not purely chasing after benefits. She still cared about others. I understand this. Lee Tianyun did not explain much. He did not need to be like other cultivators and needed to stabilize his foundation. In any case, he could just focus on leveling up. Immediately, they turned their attention to the god-killing pagoda. Because there was no one controlling it, the infernal energy began to dissipate and it soon returned to its normal appearance. This undoubtedly allowed them to destroy the god-killing pagoda faster. But the difficulty of doing so was not small at all. They did not understand much in this aspect, so they were just randomly messing around. Afterwards, it was Lee Tianyun who pointed out the general direction of the array eye so that it would be a bit easier for them to destroy it. You are also a divine engraving master? Nien Ci saw Lee Tianyun guide them in destroying the god-killing pagoda and was deeply shocked. That's right. Is there a problem? If one's mental force is a bit stronger, then cultivating to become a divine engraving master shouldn't be a problem, right? Moreover, Elder Nien, are you also a divine engraving master? Lee Tianyun looked at her and smiled. That's right. Nien Ci had a complex look in her eyes. She was a divine engraving master, but she was only a first-grade divine engraving master. She simply could not see the flaws in this great array. Chapter 945. Under Lee Tianyun's guidance, everyone was crazily destroying the formation eyes. Because most of them were not divine inscriber, it was more difficult to destroy them. It took a long time to destroy one. Those who had a bit of understanding, after knowing the formation eyes, would find it easier to destroy them. The last one. Lee Tianyun's eyes flickered. The formation eye in front of him was the last one. There were many formation eyes in the god-killing pagoda, but most of them were destroyed. Only the last one was left. Everyone wiped their sweat. Destroying so many formation eyes in a row would consume a lot of energy. Even if they knew the formation eyes, it would take a long time to destroy them. However, they were all very proactive. No one dared not to be proactive. It was not only because they were angry at the god-killing pagoda, but also because they were afraid of Lee Tianyun. It was better to listen to his orders. Rumble. With a loud sound, the entire god-killing pagoda shook. Following that, the god-killing array under their feet started to collapse, and everyone was sent flying. What appeared in front of them was an incomparably huge pit. Following that, a dense resentment surged up from below, accompanied by a dense baleful aura. It almost surged up from below, scaring many people into running away. When this baleful aura dissipated a little, everyone looked down into the pit, and their expressions changed. There were countless skeletons at the bottom of the pit, and there were also many fresh corpses. These fresh corpses were undoubtedly killed. After being swallowed by the god-killing array, they appeared below. So many corpses. Lee Tianyun looked at the countless corpses in the pit. This did not surprise him. So much baleful aura surged up from the bottom. Without so many corpses, it was impossible for so much baleful aura to appear. If it was before, he would not have felt anything. After all, it was normal for people to die in this kind of arena. They would all be sucked into the pit to create baleful aura. Now that he knew it was to resurrect those god-killing divine generals, it was a different story. Deliberately attracting groups of people here was to create more baleful aura, so that the divine generals could be resurrected. It had to be said that this was really a big move. Who knew how many people had died for this? Xiao Chen looked at the corpses below. They were all star venerates and above. One had to know that in the Fan Yu, a star venerate could be considered a super expert. Here, they were like cabbages, piled up like cabbages. This was the difference in levels. Those who could be called gods in the mortal world could only be cannon fodder here. Burn! Lee Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he quickly threw out flames to burn the corpses. Very quickly, the place was engulfed in flames, and the corpses were burnt to ashes. When the others saw the scene below, they all felt their blood run cold. They all knew that a lot of people died in the god-slaying pagoda, but it seemed like the number of people who died was truly too much, at least over 10,000. Over the years, too many people had died here. If Azura finds out about this, I'll probably be in big trouble. Lee Tianyun looked at the burning corpses, and the fact that the Killing God Pagoda was gradually collapsing. Killing God had painstakingly built this place, yet it was destroyed by him, and so many of his god generals had been killed. Lee Tianyun reckoned that Lee Tianyun would be so angry that he would vomit blood. He will probably chase you to the end of the world. Nyen Ciu smiled. The Killing God Pagoda has existed for so many years, and many people wanted to move it away, but no one thought of destroying it. Now, you actually destroyed the Killing God Pagoda the moment you arrived. But this is also good. It is the same as getting rid of a scourge. Who would have thought that everything was a scheme? When she said to the end, Nyen Ciu's expression turned cold. Luckily, she couldn't take it back then, otherwise, she would have been like those people before, turned into Azura's tools. Chase me? I'm not afraid of that. Moreover, who would be able to recognize us now? Lee Tianyun smiled. They were all wearing masks, hiding their identities, and no one knew of their existence. That's true, but if someone else exposed their identity, they might have been chased by Azura. Nyen Ciu looked at the Lord of Heaven at the side, and shook her head. The name of Azura causes people to tremble in fear. I wonder where he is now. I think that Azura isn't dead yet. Yes, he is definitely not dead. Lee Tianyun's eyes flashed. If they were dead, it would be difficult for these god generals to resurrect. Although he didn't know how these god generals died, there must be some conspiracy behind it. But it has nothing to do with him, anyway. Destroying the Killing God Pagoda is the end, the rest doesn't matter. Successfully completed side quest, Kill Killing Soul God General, Destroy Killing God Pagoda, Reward 100 billion EXP, 5 million Crazy Point, 5 million Proficiency, 5 million SPs. At this time, the side quest was finally completed, and he got a considerable amount of EXP. But compared to the EXP he needed to level up now, it was not enough, not even a fraction. Received Special Divine Realm Quest, Exterminate Azura. Reward, 100 trillion EXP, 100 million Crazy Points, 50 million Proficiency Points, 50 million SPS, and 3,000 Prestige Points. At the same time, you will get the special title Azura. Quest that affects the structure of the second-grade Divine Realm can affect the direction of your own forces. Choose to proceed. The special Divine Realm quest that popped up made him stunned. He wanted to say that it has nothing to do with him, but now a new special quest popped up. Either choose to do it, or choose to ignore it, it's up to him. Forget it. If I meet him one day, then I will just kill him. Lee Tianyun has made up his mind. Anyway, if it's on the way, then he will kill that guy. If it's not on the way, then there's no other way. He doesn't know where the killing god is, especially when he saw the reward. It is tempting. The other party must be a very strong existence. He definitely can't provoke this killing god now, plus the situation of the later part of the mission, affecting the second-grade Divine Realm. He is now only in the first-grade Divine Realm, and the second-grade Divine Realm is still far away, which undoubtedly proves that the strength of this killing god is absolutely amazing. Friend, thank you for your help. If there is no problem, we will leave now. At this time, someone came to say goodbye to him. In fact, they want to see how Lee Tianyun's attitude is, so as not to create hostility or something. They don't want Lee Tianyun to sneak attack them from behind when they are ready to leave. Lee Tianyun's elusive figure is too scary. If you want to leave, then leave. What does it have to do with me? Lee Tianyun looked at them indifferently and said, I am not a homicidal maniac. I only kill those who harm me. Are you? Of course, we are not. If you have time, you are welcome to visit our Divine Realm. Chapter 946. This person is so powerful. Is he going to participate in the battle of the Divine Realm? No way. Even the Lord of Heaven was killed. Are you sure his cultivation is below the Lord of Earth? That's not possible. But he went to the Killing God Matrix. Did you forget that he is a divine carver? He can even find such a complicated matrix. It shouldn't be a problem for him to go in with a stronger cultivation, right? That makes sense. If such a monster can participate in the battle of the divine realm, we won't stand a chance. When they left, the teams were discussing. This time, they suffered heavy losses. It would be good if they could survive, let alone get any benefits. Compared to this, they were more interested in which divine realm Tianyun was from. But no matter how they looked, they couldn't tell which divine realm he was from. There was no obvious characteristic power. Instead, they saw a very evil power. They couldn't tell. They are running away as if they are hiding from the plague. It seems that you scared them. Nian Xiu couldn't help but laugh when she saw them running away. I can't help it. They are timid. I'm not a killer. Tianyun shrugged helplessly. Okay, we can go back now. From today onwards, the Killing God Tower will disappear completely. Nian Xiu shook her head and said, for a first-grade divine realm, it is equivalent to losing an excellent place to cultivate. Of course, it is more to get rid of a scourge. These Killing God generals stay here to hunt and kill. I don't know what they are plotting. I'm not sure about that. We should leave quickly. They have sent a message. I guess someone will come to investigate soon. Tianyun glanced around. Those people shouldn't come so soon. Yes, I have the same intention. We must not bring trouble to the heavenly mandate divine realm. At least not now. Nian Xiu took out the spirit ship and quickly left with Tianyun. Soon, the place was empty. No one dared to come close. A few days after everyone left, a hole was torn in the void, and a figure walked out. His entire body was enveloped in killing intent, and even his face could not be seen clearly. A berserk aura was released in all directions. If someone with a lower cultivation were to stand beside it, they would probably go berserk immediately. The god-slaying pagoda was destroyed, and the 7 god generals all died here? The man frowned, but there was no sadness in his eyes. After inspecting the area, he waved his hand, causing a beam of light to cover the area. Very soon, a scene appeared in front of him. It was the scene of the previous battle, and now it was presented before his eyes. No matter where the details were, they were all displayed before his eyes. Giant rock race, giant eagle race. His eyes flashed with red light. It was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. When he saw Tianyun easily kill everyone, his eyes narrowed into thin lines as if he was carefully observing Tianyun's situation. His strength is astonishing, his speed is fast enough, and his explosive power is astonishing. Just what divine realm is this? He guessed. Strange, there are no special characteristics. Could it be the ancient heaven race? No, it doesn't look like the ancient heaven race. Just what kind of race is it and what kind of power is it? He really couldn't find any clues. This scene was just to observe the situation. He couldn't feel the aura of the battle, so he couldn't tell. At this time, 2 spirit ships flew over from the side. Many people came out of the spirit ships, and what they saw was the collapse of the god-slaying pagoda. What's going on? The god-slaying pagoda collapsed. They were all dumbfounded. They had come from other divine realms to cultivate, but they didn't expect to see the god-slaying pagoda collapse. Don't go over. That guy's entire body is filled with killing intent. Could he be an expert who has gone berserk? One of the Lord of Heaven felt a sense of danger. He immediately brought his disciple back to the spirit ship, wanting to quickly leave this place. However, it was too late. The mysterious man had already arrived in front of them. He smiled at them and said, "Since you've seen me, then stay behind." Boom! A red light flashed, and in the blink of an eye, the 2 spirit ships were engulfed. The sturdy lower-grade Samsara-level spirit ship was forcefully smashed into pieces. The cultivators inside were all sucked dry, turning into piles of ashes that scattered in the air. What a bunch of trash. It wasn't easy for my lord to spend so much effort to save them, but now they're dead. He shook his head and said in a deep voice, "I don't know who that brat is, but I definitely have to find him. It's very likely that he will become my lord's next body." The red light in his eyes flickered, but he couldn't find any clues. He could only tear open space and leave this place. Tianyun and Nian Xiu were completely unaware of the situation here. Fortunately, they had left quickly. If they had stayed a few more days, they would have ended up like the cultivators who had just arrived, dying without a complete corpse. Tianyun and Nyen Ciu quickly returned to the heavenly mandate divine realm. Nyen Ciu was very satisfied with this trip. She was full of confidence in Tianyun. As long as he participated in the divine realm's ascension battle, he would definitely be able to fight his way into the top 10. There are still a few years before the divine realm's ascension battle. I don't know how you cultivate, but in the remaining time, you should consolidate your cultivation. If there's anything you need, just tell me. I will do my best to assist you. Nyen Ciu had already taken off her mask. Her beautiful face was full of excitement, and her eyes were full of hope for Tianyun. He was someone who could get a good result in the divine realm's ascension battle. How could she not be excited? Assist me with all your strength? Tianyun thought for a while. It seemed that he didn't need any assistance. After thinking for a while, he smiled and said, "If only you could arrange some dangerous places for me, such as places with more demonic beasts." Nyen Ciu looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. He was indeed someone who liked to kill. How could others not be afraid? You really rely on fighting to improve your cultivation? Nyen Ciu looked him up and down, feeling a little speechless. Elder Nyen, didn't I say it before? Tianyun felt even more helpless. All right, I have indeed seen people who continuously improve their cultivation through fighting. Their breakthrough speed is indeed not bad. Nyen Ciu thought for a while before saying, "Those places are too dangerous. Even the Lord of Heaven can't casually go there. The safer places probably won't be of much help to you." She frowned and thought for a while before saying, "However, there is a place that is indeed more suitable for you to go. I have to tell the region lord about this." Sure. Tianyun agreed without thinking. He just wanted to find a good place to cultivate now. His cultivation was not bad now, but he definitely wouldn't be arrogant. The Divine Realm's Ascension battle was definitely not a simple battle. Countless experts of the Divine Realm would gather together. There might be some extremely heaven-defying existences. This was because Nyen Ciu had said that with his current strength, he might be able to fight his way into the top 10. She didn't say first, but said that he might be able to fight his way into the top 10. Chapter 947. Tianyun didn't stay in the training room for long. Soon, Nyen Ciu came back, looking excited. He didn't need to guess to know that there was no problem. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so excited. "It has been approved. Prepare for a few days, and then I will take you to the core area of the heavenly mandate divine realm." Nyen Ciu said excitedly. "The core area of the heavenly mandate divine realm?" Tianyun looked at her in confusion. "Yes, the core area. Only many outstanding warriors can go there. Now, we have made an exception and applied for it for you," Nyen Ciu said. "Elder Nyen, did you tell the region lord about me in the god-slaying tower?" Tianyun asked. "Yes, otherwise it would be impossible to apply for it," Nyen Ciu said in a deep voice. Tianyun nodded. This was not out of his expectation. If he didn't show any ability, the region lord wouldn't have arranged these places for him. Without a certain amount of contribution or ability, it was impossible to open some special places. After all, those places required a lot of resources. Without contribution or ability, they were definitely not allowed to go. If anyone went there, the heavenly mandate divine realm couldn't afford it. But I didn't say that you could fight against the Lord of Heaven. I only said that your breakthrough speed is very fast. If you want to get a good result in the battle of heaven, you must quickly improve your cultivation. So, we made an exception and allowed it, Nyen Ciu said. I thought Elder Nyen had already said it. Tianyun smiled. He didn't think it was a big deal. Anyway, it wouldn't affect him. Some secrets should be kept for the time being. I can give the region lord a surprise. Nyen Ciu's beautiful eyes twinkled, and she became a bit playful. This made Tianyun feel a bit funny. He didn't expect Nyen Ciu to have such an idea. It seems that Elder Nyen has high hopes for me? Tianyun shook his head. Yes. Nyen Ciu looked at him with burning eyes and said in a heavy tone, I won't hide it from you. Don't be fooled by the heavenly mandate divine realm's glamorous appearance. In fact, the heavenly mandate divine realm is gradually declining, and the resources in all aspects can't keep up. Therefore, we need to obtain good results in the divine realm ascension battle, at least in the top 10. It's not just our God domain, it's the same for the other God domains. Without an excellent inheritance, there was no way to strengthen the power of the God domain. There are God realm experts eyeing us covetously from the side. If we continue to be weak, we'll definitely be swallowed up. Her tone was serious, and she was not joking. Tianyun knew that she wasn't joking, otherwise he wouldn't have spent so much effort to nurture the core hall. These were all geniuses that would participate in the divine realm's ascending heavens war. Tianyun could imagine what he would get if he won: stronger martial arts, stronger weapons. In the vast divine territory, the strongest martial arts were only at the reincarnation level. What about martial arts above the reincarnation level? Of course, they didn't have a single one. They had to rely on the divine realm's ascending heavens war to obtain good results before they could strengthen themselves. If I participate in the divine realm's ascending heavens war in my current situation, I wonder what rank I can get? Tianyun inquired. If there are no accidents, you should have a high chance of getting into the top 10. Nian thought for a moment and said, "It's undeniable that you possess the strength to fight against the Lord of Heaven. However, this divine realm's ascending heavens war is very different from other assessments. At the same time, there are many heaven-defying experts in the divine territory among the participants. They have an advantage that we don't have. To put it bluntly, they have an innate advantage. In terms of strength, they are much stronger than us. In addition, they have an even more valiant race strength, which is enough to withstand everything. The other God domains might rely on external forces or have their own special trump cards. Their cultivation might be above the 6th or 7th refinement, or even above the 7th or 8th refinement. To them, crushing Fan Yu's Lord of Heaven is as easy as flipping their palms. Especially the high-level Earth monarchs. Nian Xiyu looked at Tianyun and warned, "When you start to break through to the 4th refinement Earth monarch, I will protect you. After all, this is the true dividing line." Tianyun nodded. He already had some understanding of the Earth monarchs. From the 4th refinement Earth monarch onwards, one would have to accept the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation happened once every 1,000 years. No one could avoid it. No matter which corner or region one hid in, once the time was up, the heavenly tribulation would descend. At that time, one could break through if they succeeded. If they failed, they would die. If they couldn't wait, they could attract the heavenly tribulation in advance and continue to break through. Of course, there was a third option. That was to directly break through to the Lord of Heaven. In that case, there wouldn't be any time limit. From the 3rd refinement Earth monarch onwards, one could break through to the Lord of Heaven. But this kind of Lord of Heaven was undoubtedly the trashiest existence. Even the Lord of Heaven couldn't compare to many high-level Earth monarchs. If people knew that he broke through from the 3rd refinement Earth monarch onwards, he would only be mocked as a coward. After all, when breaking through from the 3rd refinement Earth monarch to the Lord of Heaven, one would also have to endure the heavenly tribulation. It was just that the difficulty of the heavenly tribulation was much lower. Out of 10, there would be around 5 that succeeded. The probability was still very high. As for breaking through to a higher level, not only would one have to endure the heavenly tribulation every 1,000 years, the difficulty was also extremely shocking. But once one broke through, the power that erupted after was astonishing. Especially when the 7th or 8th refinement Earth monarch broke through to the Lord of Heaven. That was an extremely terrifying existence that could definitely crush other Lord of Heaven. It was just that the danger was too great. 1,000 years might seem like a long time, but some of them didn't consolidate their cultivation much before they had to forcefully face the heavenly tribulation. As a result, they were directly finished and had nothing left. Hence, the further one went, the more terrifying the success rate was. 9th refinement Earth monarch was really too rare. Sixth or seventh refinement could still be seen. Eighth refinement and above were extremely rare. Ninth refinement could be said to be 1 in 10,000. And this was based on the premise that one was an eighth refinement Earth monarch. Out of 10,000 people, it was already not bad if 1/9 refinement Earth monarch appeared. It was enough to show how high the difficulty was. Yi Tianyun's big gift bag reward could only be opened when one broke through to the 9th refinement Earth monarch. Otherwise, there was no way to open it at all. It was useless even if one broke through to the Lord of Heaven. Hence, when he found out about the situation in this aspect, he felt the pressure multiply. One had to endure the layers of heavenly tribulation. The further one went, the more monstrous it would be. The difficulty could be said to be monstrous. Breaking through to the 4th refinement Earth monarch level. Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes. The difficulty would definitely be great, but if it was the beginning, it should be relatively easy. If one couldn't even break through to the 4th refinement Earth monarch level, then one would really have lived in vain. Chapter 948. After Nian Xiu gave her instructions, she went to prepare and let Yi Tianyun rest here for a period of time. He had just returned from outside, so he had to rest for a while first. Most importantly, Nian Xiu also had to clear the situation on the other side, hence she let Yi Tianyun rest for a few days. Yi Tianyun didn't need to rest at all. Previously, he didn't have any intense battles, so resting or not resting didn't make much difference. Looks like I can only wait for a while. Yi Tianyun stayed in the cultivation room, waiting for the results. He didn't know what the core cultivation ground was, but since Nian Xiu was so supportive of it, it shouldn't be bad. As long as it wasn't as bad as the Killing God Pagoda, it was fine. The Killing God Pagoda was really bad. If he wasn't stronger, he would have definitely died there. After being possessed, his body would be taken over, and he would be at the mercy of the other party, taking over his position. Just thinking about it made him feel disgusted. Luckily, he was fine. As he continued to wait, there was a knock on the door. Gu Yurong? He didn't expect that it would be Gu Yurong looking for him. Without thinking much, he got up and walked outside. After pushing the door open, Gu Yurong's familiar face appeared in front of him. When the two of them looked at each other, Gu Yurong didn't dare to look at him. I didn't expect you to come. What's the matter? Yi Tianyun looked at her and smiled. Young Master Yi, I saw that your friend seems to be in some trouble. Gu Yurong was a little embarrassed. The main reason was that her personality was originally cold. Now that she took the initiative to talk to Yi Tianyun, she was more or less embarrassed. My friend? Yi Tianyun thought for a moment and immediately thought of a person. That was the cultivator who just came to God Domain. Could it be that Lei Zhengyu? Yes, that young Master Lei is fighting with someone on Manflower Star. He can't hold on much longer. If this continues, I'm afraid he will die there. Gu Yurong said. What? A duel? Yi Tianyun furrowed his brows. He knew that Lei Zhengyu was someone who kept a low profile. Someone must have provoked him for him to fight in the arena. Yes, I've persisted in fighting in the arena for a few days and fought with many cultivators. I heard that he was going to fight with those cultivators who looked down on the human race. The other party fought one after another, and his injuries were quite serious. Gu Yurong said. As expected. Yi Tianyun's gaze turned cold. It was no different from what he had expected. Lei Zhengyu wouldn't look for trouble for no reason. Someone must have provoked him. Shortly after, he smiled at Gu Yurong and said, Thank you very much. I'll go out now. In the next moment, he immediately rushed forward, not staying here for even half a second. The situation must have been very urgent, because he saw that Gu Yurong was running to find him. When she came to him, her breath was a bit messy, which meant that she had rushed all the way here. Gu Yurong looked at his back as he left, and there was some worry in her eyes. Young Master Yi, will he be okay? She thought about it and followed him. She had always received help from Yi Tianyun, so naturally, she wouldn't just leave him be. Yi Tianyun quickly went to Manflower Star through the teleportation matrix. Sky Emperor Star was a rather special planet in the heavenly mandate divine realm. It was often a place of entertainment for many cultivators who had completed their tasks, and there were all kinds of entertainment facilities on it. For example, brothels or various restaurants, which were basically places where people indulged in debauchery. However, there was a huge duel here. It was quite exciting to drink and watch the battles between the cultivators on the duel. However, there was a big problem up there, and that was that life and death were not allowed. Fists and legs had no eyes, and if one died, it would have nothing to do with the other party. Fortunately, one could surrender. If they surrendered, they definitely couldn't attack. Otherwise, they would be punished by the referee. When he arrived at Manflower Star, he immediately smelled a strong wine fragrance. There were restaurants all around, and each restaurant was more luxurious than the one before. It was very easy to spend money here. One just needed to use some star stones. Contribution points could be exchanged for star stones, so after completing their tasks, they could come here to rest. Little brother, do you want to come over and have some fun here? A beautiful woman at the side tossed out a silk handkerchief and gently shook it in his direction. The fragrance spread out, looking very tempting. There were many special services in the restaurants here. The beautiful women all had low cultivations, but there were also some with high cultivations, reaching the Star Lord level. There was nothing wrong with doing this kind of business. Where there was demand, there would be a market. Because of their cultivations, none of them were ugly, and they were all beautiful. However, Lee Tianyun didn't even bother to look at them. He focused his gaze and looked ahead. He immediately saw a huge duel in the distance, which was divided into several sections. This meant that several duels could be held at the same time. One of the duels was very lively. Several people surrounded the duel, shouting, "Beat that brat to death! Beat that human to death! He doesn't know what's good for him. To think that he dares to provoke us. He is seeking death." These voices spread out in the surroundings, truly ear-splitting. On the other hand, there was basically no one supporting Lei Zhengyu. Tianyun narrowed his eyes and stomped on the ground. Boom! Then he vanished from where he stood. The woman at the side waved her silk handkerchief in boredom. She said resentfully, "These stinky men. They get so excited when they see people fighting, but they are not interested in us at all." They all returned in boredom. Little did they know that Lee Tianyun was not interested in these pink skulls at all. In the blink of an eye, Xiaochen arrived at the edge of the duel and saw the familiar figure of Lei Zhengyu fighting with a cultivator. The two were locked in a stalemate. It was clear that Lei Zhengyu was being suppressed. The main reason was that he was injured, while his opponent was not injured. Even if their cultivation levels were similar, Lei Zhengyu would definitely be defeated due to his lack of stamina. At this moment, Xiaochen realized that there were many human cultivators who supported him. However, their voices were much weaker than the other parties. It was as if they had no confidence. All of them were cowering. Even if they won, they would look like thieving thieves. On the other hand, even if the other races lost, they were full of vigor, as if they had won. What's going on? Lee Tianyun came to the human side and asked his fellow cultivator beside him. When that person saw that Lee Tianyun was one of them, he said helplessly, "What could be going on? That brat up there is defending a fellow cultivator called Lee Tianyun, so he started fighting with others." Defending a fellow cultivator? Lee Tianyun was stunned. He did not expect that they were fighting because of him. He really did not expect this. Yes, someone said that Lee Tianyun entered through the back door, or that he is not a human cultivator, but actually from another race. In short, he did not recognize Brother Yi's achievements, or he did not think that he was a human. He thought that it was impossible for a human to achieve such achievements. The cultivator said helplessly, then he retorted that Brother Yi is a human, and that he did not enter through the back door, nor did he use any tricks. Then they started fighting. That brother is really tough. He has defeated several of them, but the other party still did not change his words. Chapter 949. Lei Zhengyu roared angrily in the arena. The lightning in his body flickered and exploded. His strength was several levels higher than before. He, who was originally at a disadvantage, suddenly gained the upper hand. He crazily suppressed his opponent, and the arena was filled with lightning. Boom! After his opponent was sent flying by a punch, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily from the sky. Lei Zhengyu roared and continued to charge forward. When he was ready to beat his opponent again, his opponent hurriedly shouted, "I admit defeat, I admit defeat." After admitting defeat, a judge immediately stood up and signaled for them to stop fighting. "You lost. Quickly apologize to my friend." Lei Zhengyu panted and glared at his opponent in front of him. He spat out a lot of blood, which splattered on the ground. It seemed that his condition was quite serious. If this continued, he would definitely die in the arena. His opponent could surrender, but he couldn't. Lost? We didn't lose. You still have many of us to defeat. How can you say we lost? Their opponent was a large group of people. Perhaps they didn't know each other, but facing a human, they immediately united and refused to admit defeat. If they wanted to admit defeat, they would have done so long ago. They wouldn't be so shameless as to send people up. To Yi Tianyun, winning the tag battle was a loser. Is that so? Come on then. Come on. Lei Zhengyu's body swayed and he almost fell. However, he stood firm and looked at them with a fierce gaze. He would never admit defeat. No matter how many of you come, I will defeat you until you admit defeat. He was panting, but his stubborn heart supported him. This kid is really tough. I didn't expect him to be so good. They didn't admit defeat, but they were still shocked. Lei Zhengyu had defeated several of them in a row. Just this result alone was shocking. However, they didn't admit defeat. They wouldn't admit defeat no matter what. Find a stronger opponent and beat him to death. We will definitely win this time. If not for the cultivation limit, I would go down and beat him up. They were very displeased to see Lei Zhengyu like this. If not for the fact that the dueling ring did not allow the difference in cultivation, the dueling ring would only allow the difference of 1 or 2 cultivation realms at most. If the difference was too great, not only would it not be worth watching, but it would also result in a crushing defeat. Yi Tianyun, who was watching from below, narrowed his eyes slightly. He turned to his fellow tribesmen and asked, "None of you intend to go up and help?" A look of shock appeared in the eyes of this fellow clansman. We're so much weaker than them. How can we help? And even if we defeat one of them, they'll bring more powerful helpers later on. We'll still lose. The surrounding people all shook their heads. Their thoughts were the same. None of them wanted to stand out. If he stood out, he would be beaten to death. In addition, there were so many people here suppressing him. It would be hard for him to survive in the future. They could only choose to silently endure the humiliation. In this state, it was akin to dragging out an ignoble existence, living for as long as they could. If they forcefully stood out, the only result that awaited them would be getting into trouble. They would be in a troublesome situation, so how could they cultivate in peace? Yes, who doesn't want to stand out? But the other party is so much stronger than us. In the end, we were suppressed to death. There was a situation like this before. A group of people were suppressed by force, but in the end, they were still suppressed, causing them to leave the heavenly mandate divine realm and wander outside. I remember that incident. It was very big. There were a few very powerful people who led a group of people to kill everywhere. When all the human clans thought that they could rise, a super genius from the other side came and defeated everyone. After that, they sank into depression, and their status was getting worse day by day. They all shook their heads. As long as this divine realm was not controlled by the human clans, their status could not be higher than that of other clans. Or it could be said that they had absolute power. Otherwise, they could not support it at all. If someone were to lead you, would you stand up and fight with them? Yi Tianyun looked at them and asked. Forget it, there's no hope. Yes, there's no hope. Don't struggle in vain. Little brother, the idea is good, but the reality is cruel. They all chose to shake their heads. Even if someone were to lead them, they did not want to do such a thing. They had failed so many times that they were so desperate that they could not stand up. Yi Tianyun saw despair and pessimism in their eyes. There was no passion to speak of, and there was no motivation at all. How could they improve their status like this? No wonder their status has always been lower than others, and they have always chosen to live. What status can they have? Lee Tianyun shook his head and jumped forward. He immediately landed beside Lei Jingyu and reached out to pat him on the shoulder. Lei Jingyu turned his head and looked over. When he found it was Lee Tianyun, he was delighted. "Brother, thank you for your hard work. Leave it to me." Tianyun took out an elixir and handed it to him. "Take this elixir, and then it's my turn to perform. I'll thank you properly for helping me protect my reputation before." Lei Jingyu took the elixir without hesitation and stuffed it into his mouth. He grinned and said, "It's no big deal. I just can't stand them. No matter what, we must maintain our dignity. We must not lose our dignity." "What are you doing here? Are you here to fight?" When the cultivator at the side saw Lee Tianyun going up to help, he frowned and said, "Do you humans think you can fight against us? So what if I am?" Lee Tianyun looked at him and said indifferently, "There is no problem. In that case, you are willing to help him?" The other party looked at him and said disdainfully, "So what if I am?" Lee Tianyun repeated. Such an indifferent tone immediately made them feel extremely displeased. A cold look flashed across their eyes. "All right then, I will let you participate in the battle on my behalf, in case you say that we are bullying him with numbers." The other party said, "Aren't you bullying him with numbers?" Lee Tianyun found their words very funny. He glanced at the people present and said coldly, "Since that's the case, I will give you a chance to bully him with numbers. Whether it's one or a group, you are very welcome to compete with me." Lee Tianyun had just come up, but he already said such big words. This caused many people to exclaim in surprise, especially the cultivators who talked to Lee Tianyun just now. When they saw him go up and say such words, they were all stunned. Was he trying to put on an act and provoke everyone present? The others were immediately infuriated. They all glared at him, their faces alternating between green and red. "There is no need to bully him with numbers. I will come down and fight with you in this round." Following that, a young man descended from above. His cultivation was similar to Lee Tianyun's, a second refinement Earth Monarch. Lee Tianyun had just come up and released a bit of his aura to let them know what level he was at. The people they sent up naturally couldn't exceed this level of cultivation. Moreover, this level of cultivation wasn't considered low. Lee Tianyun looked him up and down and said with a faint smile, "Don't you like to bully him with numbers? Why don't you continue? I very much welcome you to gang up on me. It's not that I like to torture myself, I just want to satisfy your wishes. All of you came to play a tag battle and won't admit it even after losing. What a joke. Is this the so-called arrogance of your race? To me, those who have always bullied the weaker races to show off their superiority are actually characters with low self-esteem. Only by suppressing other races can they obtain a sense of accomplishment. This kind of person is really trash. A true expert wouldn't care about this at all. Instead, all of you are like frogs at the bottom of a well. What a joke. Chapter 950. Lee Tianyun's words were full of thorns, causing their faces to turn green and pale, making them extremely embarrassed. Many of the others who remained neutral were also extremely disdainful of their behavior. Previously, they had agreed that it would be a normal match and the loser would apologize. Who knew that they would start a tag team battle, and Lei Jingyu almost couldn't hold on. Winner takes all. What else is there to say? Do we still need to talk about fairness on the battlefield? What an idiot. Win against us first. The cultivator standing opposite Lee Tianyun glared at him, not the slightest bit self-conscious. Even now, they didn't think that they had done anything wrong. Oh, winner takes all. Then let's talk with our strength. Lee Tianyun looked at them coldly and said, "I'll give you one last chance. Choose to fight as a group, or fight one by one. It's up to you." "Bullshit. I alone am enough to deal with you." The other party looked at him angrily and shouted, "Come on, don't be so long-winded. If you want to fight, then fight. I will make you humans unable to say a word. Just like what happened in the past, all resistance is futile." If you want to stay here, you'll have to obediently stay here and bow down to us. Boom! A figure rushed over and kicked him away. His whole body caved in, but he showed mercy and didn't kill him. Instead, all the bones in his body were broken. Following that, this lump of soft mud fell to the ground, and all the blood in his body splattered in all directions. It was a tragic sight, but he still had one breath left and didn't die. This was done on purpose by Yi Tianyun. Killing him was too satisfying, and he wanted to teach these pigs a lesson. Even with good medicinal pills to treat him, he wouldn't be able to get off the bed without a few years, or even decades. Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly and said, "No matter how high your cultivation is, you can come down. Even if you are the Lord of Heaven, you can come down and challenge me." Domineering, absolutely domineering. With a single kick, he had turned a second refinement Earth monarch into a meat patty. Moreover, he had even held back. If it were someone more violent, he would have been kicked to death. But he didn't do so. Instead, he made them remember for the rest of their lives, knowing that there was someone who would forever be their nightmare. Everyone was dumbfounded. With just one move, the opponent was seriously injured. Wasn't this strength too domineering? Too powerful? I didn't expect him to become so powerful in such a short period of time. Lei Zhengyu, who had retreated off the stage, was extremely excited. He shouted to the people beside him, "What's wrong with you guys? Aren't you going to cheer for them? Beat those fellows into a sorry state. Let them look down on us humans." Seeing Lei Zhengyu's excitement, the others looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Not to mention cheering, they didn't even dare to cheer. They could only shout it out in their hearts and did not dare to shout it out from their mouths. This was because they knew that if they shouted, the other party would definitely come after them. At that time, they would have to bear the consequences. When Lei Zhengyu saw that they weren't very excited, he felt very disappointed. It seemed like their hearts were already dead, and they didn't have any hope. To put it bluntly, their servility was too strong, to the extent that they didn't dare to shout out. It was truly a kind of sorrow. "But you guys aren't willing to come down and challenge me? Don't you like to take turns fighting? Come down. That passerby just now was defeated by me. Now, it's the next person's turn." Yi Tianyun glanced at them, indicating for them to continue. "I'll do it." At this moment, a third refinement Earth monarch jumped down and glared at him, saying, "This time, I'll take revenge for Brother Fan. You don't even know his name." Boom! Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, and he kicked out fiercely. This third refinement Earth monarch's outcome was immediately the same as that Brother Fan, turning into a pile of meat paste. He didn't die, but he had to be treated in order to survive. Otherwise, only death awaited him. Next, this passerby has lost. Yi Tianyun looked at the cultivators in front of him indifferently. Originally, they had disdainful expressions, but now, all of them had expressions of horror. When they saw how violent he was, their hearts started to tremble. He had merely defeated two, and they immediately didn't dare to come down. Lei Zhengyu wasn't violent enough, and the other party didn't suffer too many losses. Therefore, they dared to continue. Yi Tianyun was much more violent. He settled it with a single kick. How could they not be frightened? "What's wrong? Is no one coming down? All a bunch of cowards. Previously, you said that the winner is the king, and the loser is the thief. Now, you are the bandits, a bunch of trash. Just based on trash like you dare to challenge us humans?" Yi Tianyun sneered. He wasn't afraid of them at all. "Me, I'll do it." A fourth refinement Earth monarch took out a middle-grade reincarnation rank weapon, mustered up his courage, and jumped onto the stage. He was fully prepared to completely crush Yi Tianyun. Just as he finished his preparations, he saw a flash of light. With a boom, he immediately lost consciousness and turned into a pile of meat paste just like the previous two. "This passerby has lost." Yi Tianyun shouted very loudly. He had a feeling of rushing into the mountains and rivers, and his roar soared into the clouds. Such a roar caused those disheartened humans to feel excited. It was as though they saw a hope standing in front of them, guiding them to continue forward. "What's wrong with you guys? Didn't you want to continue fighting? Next, a bunch of trash. Lei Zhengyu roared from below, indicating for the other party to continue sending people down instead of standing foolishly at the side. Right, business. Continue sending people, a bunch of trash. Business. Good job, beat them into a sorry state. At this time, all of them mustered up their courage and roared out the dissatisfaction in their hearts. The entire area was instantly filled with their roars. They completely released the pressure in their hearts, and their voices resounded throughout the heaven and earth. When Yi Tianyun saw that the situation here was being led by him, he immediately felt gratified. This was the essence of what should be done. Even if the result was a loss, they shouldn't choose to give up. Instead, they should stand firm and continue to charge forward. What a big tone. You think we have no one? At this time, a handsome youth floated over from the side. He held a fan in his hand and looked down at Yi Tianyun from the sky. Lu Baixing is here. The number 1 genius of the inner hall is here. At this time, they immediately saw hope. They were originally suppressed, but now that Lu Baixing was here, they immediately became excited. This was the number 1 genius of the inner hall. His cultivation had reached the 6th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank. He belonged to the standard of the number 1 genius of the inner hall. It was rumored that he was ready to join the core hall. This was enough to prove how strong he was. Some people said that he could reach the 8th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank. If he reached the 8th refinement of the Earth Monarch rank and charged towards the Lord of Heaven, then he might become an elder-level mission in the future. This was truly admirable. When he appeared, those people immediately shut up. Their auras sank and they didn't dare to shout anymore. All of them seemed to have wilted. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.